Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight's guest is the spiritual warrior himself, Bill Bean. We had him on a couple months ago. Amazing show. We also had Anita Intenzo and her son Chris leave us on. Special guest. The show was an amazing show. And I felt back then that there were some forces at work that cut that show in half that night. Well, boy, there were some forces at work the last 24 hours. I've been through hell and high water technical problems to get the show on air, and I want to say a huge huge thank you to a couple people. I heard through Jamie, who I think we heard through Anthony Sanchez. If you ever needed audio help, the man to go to is a name Vital Justice. Well, Vital Justice is a saint who helped really get the show back on the road. A lot of help on the audio side of trying to figure things out. We still weren't totally sure everything. And then I spent another couple hours anxiety-filled worrying about it and brainstorming with my friend Heather Wade, who helped me out big time. She actually helped me think of what needed to be fixed. So hopefully we're all set to go. We got the World Wide Web of Weird, and boy, do we got a lot to talk about that. Bill Bean will stick around with us probably until about 12:30 p.m. or a.m. Central Time. After that, we're going to open up the phone lines. And I think you might know what I want to talk about. A lot of stuff that's in the news. So let's go ahead and get rolling into the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest is Bill Bean. He'll be on after the World Wide Web of Weird. But we are streaming live out on Facebook, YouTube, and our Paranormal Radio Soup app. If you're listening, we are a webcast. You can watch us on Facebook or YouTube. And on here, we're using a service called StreamYard, where it's nifty. I can show your guys' comments in the chat room. We also have Super Chat on YouTube. Jamie and Rob are on lookouts for anybody who uses Super Chat to get you a call out at some point in the show for it. That helps donate towards the show. You can also go to Patreon. We have a page there because we need your help. Sometimes things break or things don't work. Like I went through this weekend, ruined my whole weekend off. I know, boo-hoo me. But let's go ahead. Let's get to our lovely panel of people that always join us, the Paranormal Soup team. We got Jamie D with us tonight. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
I'm doing well.
Glad to have you. Glad to be here. She knew. She was one of those people there with me, bearing my anxiety through text messages. So thank you, Jamie, for being there for me.
Rob needs the worldwide link.
Oh, the link. Hold on a second. Hold on. All right, let me turn that music down. How you doing tonight? And then we got Rob from St. Augustine, Florida. So the link's not updating?
I don't have the new one now.
But when you open up the file, technical problems, of course. Yeah. But that's all right. That's my bad. I should have sent him the link. Give me 1 second, and you will have it here, sir. Right. We do the World Wide Web of Weird. Rob here helps run it so I can read the articles, and I didn't give him the link. That's how crazy my weekend's been. Yeah. It's my bad, not Rob's.
I should have got you earlier, but I literally just walked in the door.
That's all right. I just sent it to the Paranormal Soup team.
All right, cool.
Okay, so let me know if you have that, because we're going to roll in the World Wide Web Weird. And like I said, the last half hour of the show, we are going to probably open up the phone lines because Bill gets pretty late for some people on this show. Is probably going to head out. Who doesn't know? He might stick around, but we're going to definitely have the phone lines open before he leaves so you can talk to him. But if you want to hang out at the last half hour, we're going to talk about the Jeffrey Epstein thing. You know, I have to talk about the Jeffrey Epstein thing. How many times have I brought it up on this show? We're not like Alex Jones conspiracy theory here or anything like that, but I've been griping about Jeffrey Epstein walking and getting away with it all the years that he did. And then to finally see the turn of events, we'll get into that. Do you got it working, Rob?
Yep.
All right. Well, all right. Rob's loading up right now. Let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, we're going to start off with so I know we've talked about this before, but it's getting more and more prevalent. I've seen articles about this, and the newest one is, this is from Unexplained Mysteries, world's first human-monkey hybrid created. Damn, mates, get your dirty paws off me. I needed that audio clip for this article. Yeah. That's how bad I would have totally had it. You know, I was planning on it. Didn't happen. No cool sound effect. For those listening on our Paranormal Soup radio network, like I said before, we are a webcast where you can see videos, pictures, and you can see us, and you can see the comments from the chat room, or join one of the chat rooms on YouTube or Facebook. But listen, if you want to listen. I've had some people tell me they've had some drops on there. Email me at, what is it? I always forget. Paranormal Soup J Bland, Gmail at gmail.com. Email me if you're hearing drops on there. Let me know, because I've had some issues I want to know. So I had somebody message me. Thank you. But anyways, moving on. World's first human-monkey hybrid created. A team of Spanish scientists working in China have injected human stem cells into an embryo of a monkey. With transplant patients often having to wait years for organs, scientists have been looking for an increasingly unorthodox way to try and meet this ever-growing demand. The idea of crossing a human and a monkey to produce internal organs suitable for transplant has been floated before. However, in most countries, such experimentation is considered illegal. Although the experiment in this particular case was halted before resulting the creature could be born, scientists elsewhere have condemned the research as immoral. The biggest concern is that some of the human stem cells could make their way to a brain, potentially leading to consciousness. We are now trying not only to move forward and continue experimenting with human cells and rodents and pig cells, but also with non-human primates, said Juan Carlos Izpizuza, who led the research. Our country is a pioneer and world leader in these investigations. Well, I get it, for organ donors, why this is important to try to do this research. And I'm sure these guys have the good intentions. It's the people with the bad intentions that end up getting your research and doing bad things, like making a monkey army. I don't know. Or monkey slaves, or it's the Planet of the Apes now. I mean, we always talk about, does anybody learn anything from Terminator? They don't. What are you going to say?
Take your sticking paws off.
Oh, there it is. Thank you, Rob, to the rescue. Yeah. I mean, it's literally the Planet of the Apes. They don't learn from the Terminator scenario movies. They're making robots with AI. They don't learn from Planet of the Apes. What is science fiction for, people? All right, let's move on. We're going to get way behind. We got a lot of good stuff. All right, moving on. This one we covered when it happened, and they're still unsure. I thought this is interesting. Police is from metro.com. .co.uk. Police still don't know what clawed teacher 77 to death in isolated woods 6 months ago. Brenda Hamilton was savaged to death while walking her dog in Beaufort County, North Carolina, before sunrise on February 15th. She suffered catastrophic injuries to both arms, legs, and her scalp, according to the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office, who quickly ruled out Hamilton's own dogs as possible culprits. DNA evidence taken from the married mother's remains, which were found submerged in water, identified the animal which killed her as a canine in nature. Samples taken from 14 local dogs also ruled them out, with locals now terrified by the prospect of a mysterious creature striking again. Run resident Teresa Sawyer Huffman wrote on Facebook, "In my opinion, it's a black panther. Just a few days ago, a neighbor just a couple houses down went outside, said they saw a black animal run by them." Another neighbor, Chastity Lauren Paul, shared an even more sinister theory, writing, one word, hybrid, praying that they find out for the sake of the family, for everyone in Beaufort County, she wrote. So, all this time they got the DNA evidence and it's something canine, but they're not sure what. I'm thinking Dogman. I don't know. Dogman. All right. Oh, I forgot. You got to remind me to put the share article up, the share screen up, because you always have to flip out of it. So remind me if I don't start reading and I forget. All right, let's move on. All right. This next one's graphic, to warn the audience. We talk about cattle mutilations quite a bit on here, and there's been a number of them. I have an article. I don't know if I want to read an article, because it's another set of cattle mutilations has happened. A Mysterious Universe. I think that website had one about a calf that was left alive. There's been a lot. These people, a couple witnesses, I'm trying to find out more about this, lights in the sky and then find their cattle mutilated. Go ahead and bring that up.
Something's cut.
Like I said, warning, graphic content.
Holy crud.
There's an article on Coast to Coast AM about cattle mutilations in Oregon, and there's one on Mysterious Universe, I believe that is. Also about ones where the calf survives, and I think that was in South America or Brazil, or Argentina. It was in Argentina, I think. I can't remember. Look, the eyes are completely missing.
Blood. Jody,
Yeah,
there's no blood.
Yeah.
Honey, there's
No blood, they said. You hear them say. I mean, some people say some of these are caused by lightning strikes, but I don't think so.
Don't even really
Like lightning strikes it and the cow explodes. I don't know. But I warned you, it was graphic. But weird stuff going on in the world. Weird stuff going on in the world, and cattle mutilations is something that just seems not to go away. And the thing is they saw strange lights before it, which I thought is interesting. You know, that this just keeps happening. And you see the pictures of that, but seeing it and walk around and look at it, it does look not like, I don't know. I'm not an animal pathologist. I don't know what I would be looking at, but it looks weird to me.
Yeah.
Yuck. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on. This one, all the way from Florida.
Ooh, joy.
Speaking of lightning strikes, actually, lightning causes toilet to explode in Florida. Mary Lou Ward and her husband got the. What'd you say?
Sure, it was.
Sure, it was lighting. Yeah, honey, it was lighting. Mary Lou Ward and her husband got the fright of their lives when their toilet exploded to pieces on Sunday. While it was often recommended that people unplug electronic devices during a thunderstorm, disconnecting your toilet from the plumbing in your house is somewhat less common advice. The bizarre incident, which happened in Port Charlotte, Florida, occurred when lightning struck a septic tank outside the couple's garden, which in turn caused the toilet to violently explode. It was the loudest noise I've ever heard, said Ward. We thought the house was on fire because it smelled like smoke. I'm sure it smelled like poo, too. We came in there and the toilet was laying on the floor, pieces everywhere. According to the company that assessed the damage, the lightning strike ignited methane gas right there, natural gas from the sewer and the sewer pipes, and caused an explosion. The toilet exploded in the home owner's master bathroom, sending porcelain airborne like a missile, said Jordan Hardgarden, A1 Affordable Plumbing. Most likely, all sewer piping will need to be replaced in the septic tank. Yeah, I think most likely. I think that's pretty bad. Yeah. I mean, imagine the worst luck is that the way you went. You were on that toilet when that happened. Death by exploding toilet from lightning strike. Yeah. I mean,
there'd be some.
That's how Well, my weekend felt like it was going to be something like that. Like I was afraid to sit on the toilet after hearing that. It's just like that would be my luck right now. But we're good luck. We're positive because we got Bill Bean on tonight. It's going to be awesome. Awesome. Okay. Let's move on. Number 5. Okay. I know a lot of people seen this, but I had to cover it. You know I did. This is from NPR. A Brazilian drug trafficker tries to escape prison disguised as his daughters. For people listening and showing a video here in a second. Rob gets up there. Is a guy trying to escape from jail dressed as his daughter. This is a Brazilian drug trafficker tries to escape prison disguised as his daughter. Here we go. All right. When visiting hours ended at prison outside Rio de Janeiro, a young woman made her way towards the exit before the guards took a second look and pulled her aside. Turns out she wasn't a woman at all, but we all know male drug traffickers. Clavino da Silva was sentenced to 73 years and 10 months in prison. His escape plan, prison authorities told local media, was to have his 19-year-old daughter visit him in prison, known as Bangu 3, disguise himself as her, and then leave her behind in his place. Father of the year right there, buddy. It might have worked, but authorities say the woman's air of nervousness signaled something was amiss. A video released by a local lawmaker showed the odd sighting in the creepy reveal. Go ahead and play it, Rob. I mean, it's just, what should give away is that it was just creepy. I would like, if anybody would look her in the face and been like, what is wrong with that person? It's like a walking mannequin. Jailed for his role in the Red Command Gang. Look at this guy. I love the cute shirt, buddy. It looks like a Barbie doll or a mannequin. That mask is what's most creepy about it. But he must be really short. Short, angry guy syndrome. Wow, look at that. The guy was a Mission Impossible fan for sure. All right, let's move on before we run out of time. Actually, we're doing pretty good on time.
Should have stuck that bra a little bit bigger. Maybe they got away with it.
Yeah, a little flat chest. But he said 19 oral. I would love that. I wish we had the teenage daughter comparison.
Yeah,
I couldn't find that. I apparently couldn't. They probably didn't release her picture, but she was committing a crime too, trying to help her dad escape. So now they're both in jail. She's going to serve some time. He was going to leave her behind. Mm-hmm. He was going to leave his own. Imagine leaving, like, you come in, they'll let you go. They'll let you go. Well, you sure about that? She helped you escape. They're not going to let you go. He knew that too. He knew that he was gonna it's probably his daughter's gonna serve at least a few years in jail for helping him escape or more. He was literally sentencing his own daughter to jail. People, the evil never amazes me. We'll talk about that tonight with Bill Bean, the depths of evil. Drugs are bad. No, we got that on clip. Okay.
Drugs are bad.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to number 6 before we do run out of time, though. This is really interesting. Let me get this up on the screen. Sorry, keep forgetting. Unexplained Mysteries again. I love them because they have the short articles. Doubts cast a 1988 Shroud of Turin study. A new analysis cast doubt on the findings of controversial study and authenticity of the shroud. During the original study back in 1988, radiocarbon dating was used to determine that the Shroud of Turin, which is believed by many to be the actual burial cloth of Jesus himself, dated between 1260 and 1390, suggesting that it was a fact, a medieval forgery. Now, though, by obtaining original data through the Freedom of Information Act request, a new team of researchers has determined that these results may in fact be unreliable. For almost 30 years, scholars asked in vain for the raw data from these 3 laboratories, and the supervising institution, the British Museum, said, study leaders Tristan Casabianca, I graduated in law, so I had the idea to make a legal request based on the Freedom of Information Act. The British Museum was the only institution to fully quickly answer my request. It turned out the original test had been conducted only on the very edge of the cloth, and that the results may have been affected by a fire in the Saint Chapel in 1532. I think we had Joyce Pugh on, whatever she talked about. I mean, they would sew little pieces into it too, from in different periods to kind of hold it together. And they said the fire and the carbon from the fire could have screwed up the dating too. So there's a lot of, I've always said there's something to that. Somebody felt it was important enough to keep for a very long time. And I always felt the radiocarbon dating on it was probably iffy. But, if that is Jesus's shroud, I mean, that's incredible. Did you ever see the reconstruction of his face and all that they did on the History Channel and everything from that?
That one.
Yeah, they had that on there. Like they totally reconstruct it. I don't know. I love the Indiana Jones feel to the Shroud of Turin.
Yeah.
Sorry, big drink of coffee. I need it. But it's interesting, and we'll see. Now that they can't keep calling it a fake, maybe more people take interest and they'll find out more about it. Let's hope. All right, this last one I don't have an article for, and we got a lot of time to look at it, and it's a long video, so I did rush through to get to this. Now, August 3rd in Ohio. Now, what was last World Wide Web of Weird? We had the Wyoming video, and we had that fleet of UFOs. Remember, we saw it first looked like a triangle of them, and then all these other lights. Well, there's been something similar this time in Ohio on August 3rd. There's 4 different videos I have here. I think there's more out there, and that's what I love about it. There's all these different people who saw it. This is a long one. I think I cut out any profanity. I hope. I had to edit some of the videos because this is real life. People are seeing it. And I honestly might throw out an F-bomb or something if I was seeing what they were seeing. So Rob gets to share screen up.
I was so hoping people were going to start sending these in after that.
Well, this is Ohio, August 3rd. Wyoming, I haven't seen anything else, but this one new one in Ohio, very similar to it. There's a ton of different people that posted. All right, go ahead and play.
La verdad, papá, miren los extraterrestres. Esto está pasando aquí en Cincinnati ahorita. Todos están en vivo ahorita.
Speaking Spanish, but they're in Ohio.
Miren, ahí están, ahí están. Vaya, ya es el área 51, ya están dándose cuenta cómo están aquí las cosas.
See how they
Rápido.
I think we lost the angle on it.
You can hear coyotes crying right now too.
Ahí están. Ya ven, para que vean que la área,
It looks like something flying formation.
la área 51.
I don't know.
Esta es.
I gave this enough time because this is a little bit of a longer video than I usually do, but there's 4 different videos and I cut them down. There's more to these, but I cut them down to the best parts of the videos. Here's another one. These are all in Ohio, Cincinnati area.
Guys. It was over here.
It's disappearing again.
I'm just waiting for the guy to go, it's aliens. But all these people filmed it, you know. That's what makes it good. There's more coming. The last one's really different than the others. It's from a vehicle, inside a vehicle. But it's the same day, August 3rd. I think it looks like it's later at night. I might have cropped these videos too small. I don't know. Sometimes it cuts out. I'm not sure. But this is where they reappear. You see that? They reappear. You see how they come back? Yeah, see, because you would think, yeah, they disappear and then they reappear. You know, if it was flares, they would just go out. They wouldn't reappear in the same exact spot like that, unless it's drones.
It looks like they're following one again.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one way up ahead?
It looked like there was one up ahead. Yeah, there was like another one off in the distance. Look at their movement. They look like solid objects more than lights even.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there they go out again. Here's the one on the road. This one's really different.
Look, Tyler just said you guys seen these weird lights in the sky. Guys, what is going on? Look, aliens, they're gone.
They were live streaming it, I believe.
Bro, oh my God. What do you mean, bro? That's a UFO, bro.
UFO, bro.
There
it is,
bro.
That's the new line for 2019 for UFO sightings.
That's
that
cool
though?
Angle. They're not. Are they like event?
Look like it's
lights?
moving and it flies out of the distance. I don't know. There's like another light out there. You see that light? Yeah, they're trying to track that one. But there was like the whole other. Oh, maybe that's the building. Sorry, that's the building circling out. But there's that light up there. They're trying to see.
I mean, that's not a concert light or a car lot light.
No, it's up higher. They keep going down. I think those are building lights you're seeing there. It was out there. I don't know. That could have been reflection. I don't know. But these are all posted August 3rd on YouTube, and I've seen other ones since they're popping up. A lot of people saw this. A lot of people saw this.
Same day.
You remember the UFO thing I was talking about seeing several weeks ago?
Yeah.
I mentioned that. Pretty much
similar.
Very, very, very similar.
I am so sorry. A guest sent me something too. I am so sorry for the guest. A listener sent me something right after the last show, which had been around August 3rd. They saw something in the sky. I would love to know. Send me that again. They said I saw it and I've had so much going on. I wonder if there's any relation, you know, what day they saw it.
Pretty much exactly what I saw right there, except there was 5 of them.
And you saw it that's in Florida.
In Florida, it was out over the ocean, and I pulled up, and I was just like, "What the?" You know? And I'm looking at it, and they were there for I don't know a minute or two, and they disappeared, and then one of them reappeared. Like,
somebody pointed out the flare skydivers. Okay, I've seen the flare. Yeah, the flare skydivers, they can turn them on and off, and they can fly around a little bit for a while.
They weren't moving though; they were just.
But they don't hover there.
Yeah,
I don't think flare skydivers they can't hover. They still have to have a descent.
Yeah,
that's hovering.
Yeah,
I would be more likely if it's not UFO, it's drone. You know, if that's not what it is. But what's interesting to me is you see that in Florida. They have the Wyoming sighting. It's very similar with lights, like the way they fly through the sky. And then you have these ones all these people see in Ohio. What's going on? The Space Force.
Yeah, when I saw this, it has stuck with me. It's like I don't know. It struck a nerve somehow, and it's stuck with me since I saw it. And
then lights, I
just got a weird feeling. It wasn't flares. It wasn't anything like that.
And then you got the people seeing the lights and having the cattle mutilated. You know, I mean, are things ramping up? Are we just noticing more? I mean, the biggest thing in the news, you know, you got Bernie Sanders saying he's going to come out with it. You know, the UFO, he'll let everybody know if he becomes president. Well, we heard that by Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton, how that turned out. Yeah. You know, and then you're hearing that the president's been briefed, that other people in the government have been briefed on UFOs recently. So what's going on? That's what I want to say is what's going on. Just let us know. But that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. We're going to go to our commercial break. Our guest tonight is Bill Bean, spiritual warrior. We're going to talk about his book, Dark Forces Revisited. This is really about his experiences that as a child, and his family. Some really deep personal stuff that he rewrote. Make sure you got the story out there right. That I want to get into, because we didn't really talk about his own personal journey as much in the last show. We got into so many topics. But of course, there's a lot going on in the world right now. We will definitely go down those other rabbit holes for sure. But all right, guys, we'll be back after this short commercial break.
He is conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
This fall, a new hard-hitting police drama is coming to Friday night. He was a well-to-do cop transferred to a troubled precinct downtown. His new partner is a space traveler with a passion for justice. It's Yuppie and the Alien.
Look, you might vaporize dissidents in Alpha Centauri, but in this precinct, we do it by the book.
I'm so terribly sorry, Captain.
Goog, I'm sorry. Don't miss this one-of-a-kind police drama. They're fighting crime the hard way, in designer clothes, with $250,000 sports car and a UFO.
Partner, let's go cruise in the car and look moody.
One tough downtown precinct, two outsiders doing things their way. Yuppie and the Alien on VBC.
Paranormal Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranormal Magazine and soon, ParanormalMag.com.
Somewhere between science and superstition, there is another world, a world of darkness. Nobody expected it. Nobody believed it. And nothing could stop it. The one hope. The only hope. The Exorcist. Warner Brothers presents William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist. The Exorcist, directed by William Friedkin. The Exorcist, rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Bring life to the dead. 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 Bring life to the dead.
Enter the occult world of necromancy. You were brought here for one purpose: necromancy.
A ceremony dating back to the pre-Christian era. It's the art of reviving the dead. It requires involvement with evil spirits by the person performing the act.
The devil god brings life to the dead
No, please. No, please.
and death to the living. Necromancy, starring Orson Welles and Pamela Franklin. From Cinerama releasing. In color, rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Bill Bean, the spiritual warrior. Bill Bean is a world-renowned spiritual warfare deliverance minister, exorcist, is known as the spiritual warrior. He's also an internationally known author, lecturer, supernatural expert. Bill is currently appearing in several episodes of a haunting series. He regularly joins George Noory on Coast to Coast AM and has appeared in the Lifetime movie network series I Was Possessed. Bill has helped people in over 40 different countries and is anointed in the area of spiritual warfare deliverance ministry that addresses anything from curses, blocks, attachments, obsessions, oppressions, to possessions by demonic spirits. He's also a life coach, providing guidance and advice on how to be strong in mind, body, and spirit. With great sensitivity and understanding, Bill Bean helps his clients to find solutions to a wide array of life's challenges. He works with each client to help them build on their strengths to identify and achieve their goals. Life is about moving forward, Bill Bean says. Bill Bean is author of the following critical acclaimed books: Dark Force Delivered, 10 Steps to Victory, The Connection, and Stranger Than Fiction. Bill's given over 200 media interviews and has been featured on multiple evening and late night news programs. This is Bill's return to the show. We had him on a couple months ago. It was an amazing show. I am so excited to have him back, and we will take your phone calls later in the show. Just hang in there. I'll give out the phone lines a little bit later. You can call in and ask your questions or tell us about your own experiences. Have you experienced something demonic? Tonight's the night to call in. But let's go ahead and get rolling into the show. Are you there with me, Bill?
I am here.
Oh, good. You sound
Can you
great.
hear me okay, brother?
You
Okay,
sound great.
Fantastic. Yeah, I hear you very clearly as well.
Awesome. That's a great thing to hear after spending 24 hours fighting with this to make sure everything works.
Sure. Praise God that everything's okay.
Praise God on that for sure, because man, it was a fight to get here, but I knew it was well worth it. Thank you so much for joining us again, Bill. Now
My pleasure.
You have a new book that just came out, right?
Yes.
It's out. Yeah.
Yes.
Dark Forces Revisited, if I got the title right.
Yeah, Dark Force Revisited. That's it.
Now, this is kind of going back to your early experiences as a kid and your family's experiences, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's it's something that I felt God put a calling on me to do, to go back and just make the book, bring it full circle. That's pretty much what it was, and that's I'm glad. I'm very busy. I'm just glad that I was able to have a window of time to go back and do it.
What really made you want to go back and redo it, though? I mean, is it you wanted to add more to it, or that you know more now about your experience than you did before?
Just like with all of my books, Jason, God puts He puts a message in my head. That's the best way to say it. It's like a message or an urging that it's time to do something, and it's time to go to work. As far as with the writing aspect, I'm always working in the spiritual warfare area, but God really did put this urging in my spirit, in my mind, to go back and redo this book and just bring it full circle. So what I've done is add more information to it, and I've added a bonus chapter about life after leaving the house, and how terrible it was, even after leaving the house, and how lost I was for so long, until I decided to make God first. And then, when I was sincere about doing that and allowing Jesus into my life, that's when a transformation began to take place. And so God truly transformed my life from being a victim into a victor. And I can never thank him and praise him enough for that.
I say I'm a Gnostic, but I have to always clarify with people, I'm a spiritual Gnostic. I believe in God. I myself, had my dark shadow shadow person experience, and I know God saved me. I called out. That's who I called out to, and then I got saved. So I will praise God because I do believe in it. Because ever since then, I will not deny the fact I do believe there's a God. I do believe something's at the end of the tunnel watching over us. To protect
you just
us.
Don't believe the official story.
I it's not that I don't believe it. I'm just open to a lot of people's different interpretations and, trying to understand it. You know what I'm saying? I look at a lot of different religions, and I look at, Jesus Christ, which I've been fascinated with. I don't know if you've seen the recent thing on the Shroud of Turin. We had that in the World Wide Web of Weird, that they were finding that the carbon dating was a bunch of bunk, which I think a lot of us knew. But that to me, I believe Jesus Christ existed, was a real person, son of God. I don't know. I'm open to that. I am open to everything, though. That's the thing. I'm keeping myself open and open-minded to hear everybody's point of view on it.
And the best advice that I could give to you is to seek a true and real and authentic relationship with God, and then let him reveal the truth to you, because no man can really reveal it to you. No man can lead you where God can lead you. So that's, what I hope for you.
I think that's one of the best answers I've ever gotten to that, Bill. I will tell you that right now. I think that's one of the best answers I've ever gotten. I've had a lot of, friends that are, Christian. They have a beautiful faith. I call it beautiful faith because it's something that I don't have, like a faith. I have an open questioning, but I think it's beautiful what they have, but I'm just still in that questioning period. And I've had a lot of people give me good answers, not bad. They're Christians about when I gave you what I said, but I love your response to that, just let God reveal it to me in his own time.
Yeah. And I thank you, my brother. And this is this is all you can do, because I can't twist your arm to believe a certain way. Neither can anybody else. This is something that you have to come to on your own. This is something that you have to reconcile on your own. And if you're willing to continue to seek God and then ask him to reveal these things to you, then he will. And then this is how you will build your faith, because then you will start to develop a real relationship with God.
Well, I definitely see synchronicities. I definitely feel like I talk to God every day, because there's things that happen. Like I had something happen today. I almost wanted to just start laughing in public by myself and look like a crazy person, because it was one of those synchronicities. Like, okay, I hear you.
Yeah, it's amazing, Jason. It really is what God can do. He's worked so many miracles for me in my life. I've lost track now. I mean, I can truly, when people hear me say praise God, and I say it all the time, I mean it. I'm not saying this like some phony televangelist or something like that. I mean, when I say it, I mean it, because God has really worked so many miracles for me in my life. It continues to do so.
So when you originally wrote the book, were you not as the person of faith that you are now?
When I wrote the book for the first time, and that was, I was writing the book when I was contacted by a haunting. So a haunting contacted me, I believe it was in December of 2005. I don't know how they found out about me or my story, but they did.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah. And so it was out of the blue. And so they contacted me, and, we had some dialogue back and forth, and I agreed to do, to allow them to feature my story in their series, which was in season 2. And the episode is called House of the Dead. It was, it aired on September 7th, 2006, and they're still showing it to this day.
I've seen all the reruns of Haunted over and over again, because I love the show. And yours was definitely one of the most memorable.
It's incredible.
What I had to say is, like, the night I had you and Anita and Tenzo on, and Chris, it's like, wow, I have these people on that are some of one of the most memorable 2 episodes for a haunting for me.
Yeah, and I have made a good friend over there in Trisha Dozier. She's one of the producers over there, a wonderful lady. And through her, not only, did they do my story, but then once I became the spiritual warrior and started going out and helping people, then they got back in contact with me and started using and featuring some of my case files. And Anita and Chris, they are part of the case files that were featured in the series, and they continue to be featured. I'm going to be doing some more with them in the near future. So I really give a big shout out and a thank you to Trisha and New Dominion Pictures there for airing my story. And that's what put me on the map, Jason. Without that, I wouldn't be known. I mean,
and it fell in your lap.
It garnered international attention. Now, I'll tell you, God really does work in mysterious ways, because at that point in time, again, I was not the spiritual warrior, and I was developing my faith, but I was nowhere near where I am now. So I was still finding my way, and I was still having some supernatural experiences up until that point. So I wasn't entirely free, but the closer that I drew to God, the stronger my faith was developing. And the stronger that my faith developed, I started studying everything. My mind became like a sponge. I spent years in studies of many different things. And so that saying, knowledge is power, it is true. And so with that, with my intellect and knowledge increasing, then I started to develop confidence. And at the same time, again, all the while, trying to draw closer to God. And it was a process, 2 steps forward, 3 steps backward, because when a person is sincere in trying to make changes and really trying to make God first in their life, well, they have to abandon some of their habits, some of their ways and habits. And so we all get into these patterns, and even if it's bad behavior and bad habits, well, we have to break all of those things, and it is a process. So once I was able to do that and be firm in my relationship and my commitment to God, then he put a calling on my life. And I thought to myself, it was this tremendous urging in my spirit. I would wake up feeling this way. I would hear a voice in my head that I thought was God was speaking to me. I don't think it was the voice of God. It was almost like my own voice speaking to me per se.
Small inner voice.
Yeah. And so, but it was an urging that I needed to be this warrior for God. And I thought God must have a sense of humor, because he's got the wrong guy. I mean, I wasn't, had no, no idea, no thoughts of ever being in this, lifestyle, and this way of life and helping people, and never ever thought that I'd have this type of calling. And so in the beginning, I resisted that. I resisted it for a while because I felt unworthy. And I, due to some horrific circumstances that we'll get into, I had to quit school in the 8th grade, and I lied about my age, and I went to work for a construction company.
Oh, wow.
And so it was very, very difficult for me. So that held me back as well, because I felt that I was intellectually inadequate, therefore I could never properly present my story. And there's no way that I could do anything or be anything and help anybody in any way. And I had that mindset for many, many years. But like I said, once I had decided that I was going to make God first in my life, my mind was like a sponge. I was studying anything and everything, and it really, really broadened my intellect and increased my knowledge. And with that came the confidence and the power. And so at that point, I was confident enough to accept the calling that God had bestowed upon me. And, it's funny, Jason, because in the beginning, right after the Haunting show aired, I was getting messages from people from all over the world. And a lot of those people needed spiritual help. Now, at that point in time, I certainly couldn't help anybody. So I would refer them to people that I knew. But it's amazing how God kind of brought that all full circle, in that, I needed to be on a haunting to garner the international attention. And then I needed people God needed people to come to me with their problems and all these spiritual problems that they were having. And then, I needed to make the steps in my relationship with God, my commitment to God, to be where God wanted and needed me to be. And once that happened, I'll never forget the first time that I went to help a family. It was amazing. Amazing in the sense that it's the greatest thing when you know what your purpose in life is. And at that point in time, from the very first time, I knew that this is exactly what God wanted me to do, and it is exactly what I was supposed to be doing. So I never looked back from there. It's just, it's been an amazing journey. I have been involved in hundreds of cases. God has worked through me to have helped hundreds, maybe thousands of people all over America and in 40 other countries around the world. It's just, I don't often have time for pause and reflection, but every once in a while I do, and I'll sit and think, and I think that this is just, it's a miracle in itself, because I never aspired to be anything, let alone God working through me.
You were just
help
trying to
people
survive.
this way. Exactly, Jason. That's all it was. It's just survival.
A lot of
mode.
people, a lot of people are in survival mode. I know that feeling. And, what I'm interested, what kind of dug me in, wanted to read more of this book if I wasn't having technical problems this weekend. But the beginning of the book, you talk about the aspects of this whole story. And the thing I find really interesting is the part about generational curses. Basically something that's followed your family. I'm really interested in that, but it's stuff that happened before the whole episode on a haunting, stuff that goes back to your family. I know it's personal, but you put it, you talk about it in the book. How does this whole generational curse work? Or where did you come to discover that your family possibly has one?
Well, I'm so glad that you're bringing this up, and it's a great question. And so, again, when I had written the first version of Dark Force, I didn't realize how far back this actually goes until after I'd written the book. And then I talked with a family member, more information was revealed to me. This goes way back, Jason, and I was told that two family members from many, many, many years ago, even before, my mother was born in 1937, and even before she was born, apparently these family members had conjured up demonic forces. And once you do something like that, it's going to come on.
You're talking like 100 years ago?
Probably, yeah, at least. And once you do that, it's going to affect not only the people that are conjuring, but all the people around them. So I call it like a spiritual virus, because that spreads to anyone that is connected with that individual. And it's just like a black cloud comes over everybody. And so that's what was taking place. And there were many tragedies, even before we, got to that house. But I also believe that my parents were led to that house by those demonic forces.
Really?
And I also believe that evil was already present and manifest in that house and in the area. I can't tell you how many people have contacted me from the area, even to this day, telling me their stories and what they've experienced there and what they're currently experiencing. And I have been back there several times as the spiritual warrior to help other families who were suffering greatly from these demonic forces.
At that same house?
No, not at that house. Other houses in the area. Yeah. And
does that house still have activity? I mean, does it still have people living in it and things happening, or have you?
There are people living there. I don't know the people. I had written a letter years ago and put it in the mailbox, and no one ever responded to it. But I heard that the house had changed hands many times over the years, that it sat empty for a while. And then Fox News did a cover story on me some years back and talked about this story. And they went to the people that had been currently living in the house, and I don't know if they're still living there or not, but those people, they were not pleased by the attention.
Yeah.
They had put up no trespassing signs in the windows and all this kind of stuff, because people were going down there. I never publicly gave the address out. I didn't want to cause those people any problems, but I'm telling the truth. I have every right to tell the story about what took place there.
Well,
and certainly nothing against them, but they gave, in the interview, They said there's nothing happening here. The only evil is Bill Bean and his books. This is all made up. It never happened. And yet I found out, I was contacted by the lady of the house. One of her close friends had actually contacted me and said they were in fact having problems there and a lot of illness as well. And the same thing happened to my family. My mother was ill the entire time we lived in the house. I suffered from many illnesses as well.
Well, you call it a virus. There's something I've been getting at. I had Barry Taff on. We talked about this quite a bit. Is, you know, he's on the theory of psychokinetic agents and certain places like that house and them reacting together. A psychokinetic agent being a person, and then the location being, you know, something geomagnetic or something triggering these things to happen. I've always said I think there's something to that, but there's a third element, something parasitic, and that leeches onto people in these locations, and they're the right food source. Like the other people living in this house aren't, but your parents, your family were led there maybe because dark attracts dark. You know what's happening to you; it's just attracted. You know, this is the scenario lines up, but you guys were food for the fodder, you know, because
we were, and these other people were as well. I found out, you know, that they were having experiences according to this friend. And then I was contacted by a man that lived there with his family before these, the people that did the Fox News interview. This family was living there before them. And he told me, his name's Edward Harden, and he was in my second book, Delivered. And he went on the record and said that he and his family had many supernatural experiences in the house, including an episode. The mother was in the bathroom and the door didn't have a lock on it. It was just a regular, like a bedroom door with no lock. It's their bathroom door. And then the mother tries to, you know, come out of the bathroom and something's holding the door shut. She can't get out. She starts panicking. So Ed and his brother went and got an axe, and they had to pretty much axe and chop the door down to get her out.
I've heard of these. I mean, I'll never forget. I think it was Todd we used to have on the show. It was part of an experience where somebody had been basically sucked into a room. The door closed. They had to like knock down the door to get in it. That's the power of these things, that they could do that. You know, lock you in a room.
And again, this is so. Yes, you're right in what you said about, you know, these things being attracted. And again, by the invocation of those demonic forces, yes, they were very much attracted to the family because they were invited. So then that caused a variety of damage. And furthermore, all life operates on frequency and vibration. So when we're on high, life is good, life is positive. But when we're on low, life is a challenge. And there's always problems and issues. And like the black cloud over somebody's head, that's where the devil and his demons are. They're on the low frequency and low vibration, and they want everybody else to be there as well. So that will continue when a person is on low, or family. Then things will continue to amplify and magnify. And this is what empowers these dark forces. Is the low frequency and low vibration. And when you add the fear factor into that, man, it's a smorgasbord for them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's very parasitic, and it seems like it has to knock you down to the level that it can feed on you. It needs you to be down at the rock bottom, you know, illness wise or life wise or stress wise. It needs you to be at those low levels to get at you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, you know, it was just looking back on it, it was just unfathomable, the amount of activity that took place, the amount of attacks, physical attacks that were launched against my mother and I especially, but other family members as well. You know, I mentioned in the new book that my brother had told me a story that I was not aware of. At this point in time, I was away at my grandmother's, staying with her for the weekend. And it was during this time that my dad, and I want to say this was probably in 1975 before he left us. He did leave us in 1975. So this was right before he left us. Apparently came in a drunken stupor, which that was commonplace for him back in that time frame between 1973 and 1975. And as he entered into the home, now the home was located at the bottom of a downhill cul-de-sac and had a very large and deep ravine behind it. And so you would walk in through the front door, and the house was very dark. It had dark brown paneling on the walls, almost black. And
that's bad karma or bad mode or feng shui.
you could feel the evil as soon as you walked at you. Really, as soon as you got near the place, you didn't have to walk in the. I mean, as soon as you got in, to where you're tuned into this place in front of you, you feel the evil coming off of it. But when you walk in, the frequency and vibration just horrible, off the charts, on low, and the evil present and manifest. You could feel very strongly, very prominently, and so you would walk in through the front door, and right there was a closet. It was a coat closet. You'd put your winter coats or whatever in the closet right there at the door, and then you'd enter into the living room, and if you went straight, you would go into a dining room area, and then off to the right was a very narrow galley style kitchen, and then the back door, if you continued straight through the dining room, the back door went out into the backyard. But if you, again, entering through the front door, if you stopped about midway just after the living room, you'd make a right down a long hallway, which had a hard tile floor. And my brother and I shared the first room on the right. My parents' room was the second room on the right. My sister's room was the last room on the left. And that is the room that I believe was the main portal in the house. That room, there were many portals, make no mistake. There were many portals in the house and around the house, above and below and beside. But the main portal for that house was in her bedroom, and it was linked between the closet and her bedroom window, and going out to the side of the house. And so that room stayed cold even on the hottest of summer days. And that's also the room where the door would open and slam for many repetitions at a time. My sister did not live there very long with us. And so she left us in 1973 and ran away with a young man in the neighborhood.
Right. I remember that from the show.
Yeah.
She wanted to get the heck out of there as soon as she could.
It wasn't a happy send off. The show. And I'm thankful to New Dominion and A Haunting series for airing it. But, some of the things were not accurate. And that's one of the things that were not accurate is that, she ran away. My parents didn't give her any happy send off. She ran away in the middle of the night. My parents were frantic. But
that sounds more like what I was picturing in my mind when they say that on Hunt. They're all giving hugs and stuff. I'm like, I bet it'd go down like that.
Not at all. But back to the main point of this whole thing, and I've been long-winded on this, but I was trying to paint a picture for you and for everybody else. My dad comes in through this front door one night in particular in a drunken stupor. And according to my brother, an unseen force picked him up by his throat and threw him through those closet doors.
Oh, my God.
And my father was a bull of a man. He was a man's man. He was a very powerful individual. He was short, but very stocky. He was like a little bull. And so for something to do that to him, it's mind boggling.
If it could pick him up, it could kill somebody. That's what I've always said.
Absolutely. And so at that point in time, my dad was a violent alcoholic who was physically abusive to my mother for between 1973 and 1975. He was also physically abusive to many people in that time period. But I have to tell you that my father was a good man. Prior to that, he was a good, hardworking man, and he was blessed with tremendous abilities and capabilities. He had the blessing from God to be able to do anything and everything that he desired to do, and he could be successful at it. He was blessed that much, just had was blessed with every ingredient necessary to be highly successful in life. And I say in the book, he was robbed of his victory by the devil, of course, but by his bad choices. So the devil cannot impose his will on a person to just take them and say, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. The person has to make a choice. This is why God gave us free will. So God doesn't impose on us, and the devil can't. So we are free to make our choices, but when we make the bad choices, there's going to be a consequence. And so My father made some horrible choices, and the devil was right there to aid and abet in them. And it was part of a calculated effort to get the strong one out of the family, out of the house, and that way the rest would be weakened for these demonic attacks. And I do not say this lightly, and I've said it, I've given over 2,000 interviews, Jason, and I say it a lot, but I can't really accurately describe it in words, the amount of destruction that came on my family from these demonic forces, which greatly contributed to the destruction of my family and several deaths as well.
Like I said, if it could pick somebody up and throw them, what else can it do? I mean, I'm sure the deaths had their own logical conclusions, but you guys always felt that they were definitely related, or at least you did, related to what you were experiencing.
No question about it, especially when it came to the deaths of my grandmother and then my mother 2 months and 2 days later. You know, my grandmother died from a sudden series of heart attacks, and then 2 months and 2 days later, my mother died from a cerebral hemorrhage.
Wow.
And she was 44 years old. These were the two closest people to me in my life at the time. And I was devastated beyond words. And furthermore, I say this in the book, which I didn't say, I didn't write about the first time in the first version, that I had a premonition. God showed me a vision about 6 months before those deaths that this was going to happen. And it upset me so bad that I begged God to take me instead of them, because I wouldn't be able to bear it, you know, not having them. And, you know, it was, God has a plan for everything. There's a reason for everything in life. So his will be done, and his will was to have them in his heavenly kingdom. And I praise him for that. I'll see them again when it's my time to leave this earth. But it was definitely his plan for them to not be on this earth anymore. But I do believe that those demonic forces contributed in that,
right,
just by the amount of stress and pressure and physical attack as well. My mother, you know, after my dad left us in 1975, my mother was still being brutalized with these physical attacks by these demonic entities.
What would be some of the physical attacks your mother would experience? What did it entail?
Well, there were many times that she'd be awakened from her sleep, and it would be several different types of entities. The first time it happened to her, it was an entity that many of us, we had interactions with all of these things, and many people outside of the family did as well. This entity in particular, we call him the Undertaker. He didn't look like the WWE wrestler Undertaker, but he had black hair, chalky white skin, black beard, black suit, very sinister looking thing. The eyes were black, and he is the first entity that started attacking my mother by waking her up and choking her. And my mother had cuts, bruises, scratches on her, bite marks, everything, you know, long after my dad had left us. So, and it got to the point to where she couldn't even sleep in her bed anymore. She had to sleep in with us in our room. So, it ended up being 3 people in a 3-bedroom house that were sharing 1 bedroom. I mean, that's how bad it was. And there were times when, you know, here I am, a big, strong man and a warrior for God. I don't fear any man on this planet. I do fear God, but I don't have any fear. And yet back then, you know, I was victimized over and over and over again.
How could you not have fear in that kind of situation?
Yeah, I mean, it was so bad that if my mother, you know, back then as a child, if my mother had to use the bathroom, I'd sit outside the door and wait until she came out. I mean, that's how bad it was.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's the worst when you live in a haunted place as little kids, when you have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I mean,
Just,
when
I
they're
mean,
going to get you is when you got to go to the bathroom.
I can recall many summer nights that, you know, it was very warm, but yet I'd have to completely pull the covers over my head, totally over my head, in order to try and get any sleep at all, which all of us, we were sleep deprived terribly for many, many years. So it was just nearly impossible to try and have any type of, you know, good rest in that house.
Well, I'll tell you that, you know, whenever I have you on, I can't help but relate back to my shadow person experience, because I do find the similarities. I talked about this. I was on Heather Wade's show last Tuesday, and I talked about my experience. And one of the things I kept hitting home that it was really driving me out of my mind. It was they kept me from sleeping.
Yeah, and that's part of the tear down. So if you're, keeping a person sleep deprived, well, then you're weakening that person. So it's all about, so what the devil does, he comes in with these bully tactics. And so he wants to impose his will, and he certainly wants to break that person down, and then the family, all that are associated with the person. And he'll use a variety of tactics, but it's bully tactics, fear-based, trauma-based tactics, and divide and conquer tactics.
The divide and conquer, what I've seen, I see as a commonality in just episodes. Watch A Haunting, for God's sake. But even just commonality of people have called in the show and the stories I've read and know about is they seems to go after the father first, or some way to get the father out of the house.
Right. They want to get the strong one out of there. And so once they do that, it becomes much easier to launch the attack. And then once they have established a presence and established having the family be in total fear, well, then they can launch any type of attack. And that's what these physical attacks were about. So, not only was it this black-haired entity in the black suit that was attacking my mother, but it was this other entity that had curly red hair, long scar down the left side of its face, black eyes, chalky white skin. He's another one that was coming and attacking my mother. And then a third entity as well, which was I call the dark force entity. It was a hooded figure, black hooded figure with glowing red eyes. And so my mother was physically attacked by that as well. And my dad again left us at 75, and by 78, my mother had met a new man named Richard. And Richard, very much like my father, he was a very rugged individual, man's man, very former boxer, but yet was physically attacked as well by that entity and other entities, and was terrified to be in the house. He never believed in any of this kind of stuff, but he became a believer real quick, once he got, really involved with my mother and the family. And so he was terrorized as well. And to the point to where if it wasn't for his love for my mother, he would have never come back to that house.
Yeah, a lot of people do run from this. You can't blame them, because it just, some people that they've never experienced anything like this, and suddenly be in a situation in your household. You got to give them a lot of credit for sticking around, because if nobody's ever experienced that, a lot of people are like, I can't take this. I'm out. I've seen it.
Absolutely right. And so, I do give him a lot of credit. And again, it was his love for her that kept him there. But boy, oh boy, he did not want to be there. He begged her, for us to come and live with him. And, the most frequently asked question, Jason, is why do we stay there so long? We were there for 10 years. And I can't imagine, and when I first started writing the first version, I thought, how do we do it? How did we endure all those years? I don't know how we did it. But I think what happens is, after a while, certainly after you start to suffer some really bad attacks, something happens in a person's mind to where it's not that they're not only taken over, but it is like they're just they're now taking it in stride. That's how we were doing it. We were expecting these things to happen, and we'd become so numb to it all that we were kind of just taking it in stride. So the more we did that, the more control these dark forces had. And I equate it to just being like prisoners in a POW camp or something. You just resigned to that kind of life. Hope. Pretty much. And so, that was our life for many, many years. I missed so much school as a child. And again, I had to quit school in the 8th grade after the death of my mother and grandmother. And I lied about my age. I went to work for a local construction company. I was working with some really hardcore men, and that made me grow up very, very quickly. And then I became a hardcore man. And so I made a lot of mistakes along the way. I was under demonic oppression for many, many years after leaving that house. And it wasn't until I decided to truly make God first in my life that I was delivered from all of that and my life totally changed. But for many, many years, I really didn't want to live. I was praying that someone would just come up and put a gun to my head and pull the trigger and it would be over with. I was seeking death for such a long time, but yet that was not God's plan for my life. I believe that God had a plan for my life before I even came into this world, and I thank him and praise him for that.
Well, it's people who went through the experience you're going through post-traumatic stress syndrome. You don't even know it. It has to leave its scars on you, on your psychology, to be able to live with that. And you have, who are you going to tell? Who are you going to talk to about it? For, early on, before there was a haunting, who was Bill Bean telling or talking about this to get this out there? You had to hold all that in.
Right, because back then that was a whole different time, and people would think that you were crazy. You just could not openly talk about these types of things back then. And so, my mother was so embarrassed and so ashamed by all of it. She really was, Jason. She didn't want any attention from this, not at all.
Well, we've seen the cases like the entity case, the ones where, the people are being sexually violated. They don't want to talk about it. But, these things get really personal and really hard. I mean, it's not just like I saw a shadow person or it scared me. No, these things get into your mind, they get in your head, they physically abuse you. And how are you going to tell people that without them thinking you're completely out of your mind?
Yeah, so she only shared, she didn't want us talking with anybody about it. And she shared this with the people closest to her, which was, her mother, her sister, and the neighbor up at the top of the street, Mrs. Davis. They're the only three people for a long time that she shared any information with. And then as the years went on and things started to grow more violent and more intense, and then I started to say some things to some friends at school and in the neighborhood, and then all of a sudden it became a big story. And towards the end, it had gotten so big that people were gathering at our fence, the front fence, every night at sundown, hoping to catch a glimpse of something. And some people said they did see things. There were other people that became fanatics with it. But again, my mother was very embarrassed and very ashamed by it.
Oh, so basically, it came out before a haunting that your mom, it became public in your neighborhood.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There were so many people that, it just went around like wildfire, and there were so many people every evening gathering at the fence. And yeah, it was, and another really bizarre thing, and I don't talk about this often, but I gave an interview the other night and it came up, and I think it's worth mentioning now, is that right before we left, and we were forced out, we didn't leave on our own choice. And, again, back to what I was saying, why did we stay? Well, we stayed because we didn't have a choice. My dad, again, left in 1975, wasn't sending any money home. My mother was very ill. She was very ill the entire time that we lived there. She suffered from high blood pressure, which led to strokes, which ultimately led to kidney failure. And she died of a cerebral hemorrhage. So she was very, very ill for the entire time that we lived there. She couldn't work. She had to go on welfare. She was very embarrassed and ashamed by that. And so we were stuck. My grandmother wanted us to come stay with her, but she and my step-grandfather shared a one-bedroom apartment. My mother was not going to burden them with us.
Right.
And my mother's sister wanted us to come stay with her, but she had 8 children and a husband. And again, my mother was not going to be a burden to anybody. But furthermore, I feel strongly that each and every one of us came under a form of demonic oppression while we were living in that house. And it was almost like, as bad as it was, we were kind of bound to those entities there, to where we just couldn't escape and get away.
Do you think anybody, though, like after your father left, do you think your mom became the main focus of the attacks?
Yes, absolutely. And me as well. I suffered many demonic physical attacks over the years. It started at the age of 5 and continued throughout the years. Very violent. My sister was the first to have a physical encounter, and that took place not long after moving in. And after that, she never again felt comfortable in the house.
Who would?
And you're right. And she always felt like she was being watched and followed. And it's interesting that she had those feelings, because I can recall times feeling the same way, especially when I was outside. My father had first built, when we first moved in, he built a swimming pool right outside on the side of the house where my sister's bedroom window was, where I feel that the main portal was tied into that window in the closet. He built a swimming pool there. And so, again, my father was a master carpenter, so he was precise with everything. So he builds this swimming pool, puts it up, fills it up overnight. And the next day, the next morning, you know, he and my mom get up, they see the backyard flooded with water.
Oh.
He goes over and something had smashed that pool in.
Oh.
And I mean, you would have had to have seen it to believe it, Jason, how that thing was smashed in. And so water went everywhere. So my father, you know, has to tear everything down. He puts another pool up. I'd probably say 20, 25 feet away from that spot in the backyard. And the pool stood without incident, you know, for the rest of the time that we were there. But then he ended up building, I'd say probably about 20 feet from that spot where the pool stood, 20 feet behind that, he built a garage. And so he ended up attaching a basketball hoop and backboard to the garage for me. I was an athlete. That was my escape from all of this sport, you know. It was a great
something.
Yeah, and so I would stay out there for hours at a time by myself, shooting hoops, until I felt this presence out of nowhere. I couldn't see it, but I knew it was right there with me. And I would drop the ball and immediately start running for the front door. And this thing was chasing me. I couldn't see it, but I knew it was chasing me, and it would chase me all the way into the house. It happened so many times over the years, Jason. And once again, right in that very spot on the side of the house where I think that the main portal was. So this obviously was some kind of entry exit point for these entities. And then at various times they would appear, and I guess would really get a kick out of chasing me into the house. And again, increase in power by the level of fear and trauma.
Yeah, they feed off
they
of
were
that.
causing. Yeah.
It's like the more attention you give them with fear, those two combined, it seems then it just becomes more powerful.
Exactly right. So I could list things on and on and on as they're coming into my mind, and there were so many. And it's interesting because I go back to that man again, Edward Hardin, that had lived in the house, some years after we did. And he told me a story that, the garage my dad built, I think still stands to this day. And Ed said that his mom had a freezer out there. And he said that there were times that his mother would send him out there to get meat, and he'd go out there and get something and bring it in, and he felt like something was there and then chasing him into the house from there. So it was
Just
very
like
similar.
You. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And it's like
Very,
in the same
very
area,
similar.
right? I mean,
yeah. Yes. Right in the same area.
Wow. You wonder, I mean, yes, there's something demonic, there's something intelligent there, but you wonder how much residual you're getting something there too. I mean, something that happened there on that spot.
Well, I can tell you this also, that the ravine plays a big role in this, because it's long been rumored that there's a spot down there, and I certainly believe it because it stands out from everything else, that it was an Indian burial ground.
Right.
And so if in fact that's true, there is a structure located 2 miles south. So if you walk that ravine for 2 miles south from where the house is, you would end up at this place in the woods called the Wishing Rock. And it is this gigantic boulder-like structure that seemed to be just placed in the woods. It doesn't match with anything else. And
it reminds me of a story I wrote as a kid. If my mom's listening, she could testify to this. I wrote a story about an Indian burial ground and a rock out in the woods like that, and children involved. So it's just like it. It's weird.
Amazing, right? And so a friend of mine, John D. Romine, former police officer, is retired. He was a police officer in that area for many years. and was aware of my house and other homes that were affected in the area. He had a triangulated pattern of these events taking place. And within that triangle was this wishing rock structure. And so he did some research, and he said that Native American tribes used to gather there and worship, saying that that rock had supernatural power. So if that's the case, then perhaps there's a gateway or a vortex that is part of that or over that. And so that could be the main portal for the entire area. And that's why so many people have been affected.
So there's other houses in that neighborhood, in that area, that are have haunted or hauntings?
To this day, yeah. And I still have contact with some people that live there or currently still live there, and they tell me their stories. And I had friends from back then that I had no idea that they were going through some things similar to what I was going through, and they wouldn't say anything. And I didn't know it until, years later, where they started sharing some things. And, some people it has stayed with all these years and is still affecting them. And so there are some people that I'm going to go to as a spiritual warrior now, to God working through me to free these people from all of the demonic attachments and everything that they've been suffering through for so many years now.
Now, do you think, though, I mean, you can help people, like people that live in the area where your house was? I mean, is there no helping that area, though? I mean, you can't. It doesn't seem
I've been back. Yeah, I've been back to that area several times to help people nearby to that house that were suffering.
Right.
So I've gone back as a deliverance minister, spiritual warrior, to perform exorcism and spiritual warfare and spiritual deliverance over those people and the homes and the land. Now, I would even go back if people contacted me. Again, I don't even know who's living there now, but if I received a message, I would go back there in a flash to help those people, and would go there. A day may come to where I actually end up going back and going down into that ravine and performing some type of blessing and binding and casting out down there as well. And I can also tell you that back in that time frame, there were satanic worship practices taking place. I found an altar with bones.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, all that. And then there were times that my mother remarked about, while doing dishes in the evening, the kitchen window would face the ravine there in the backyard, and she would remark about seeing these blue lights descending down into the ravine area. Ooh. So you have the UFO aspect involved as well. So pretty much it all ties together with that place.
It's a paranormal soup. That's why I love having you on the show, because it all kind of, the Stranger in Fiction book, we showed some of it on the show last time. But I mean, we can get into that because we're going to be coming up on a commercial break. But, you've had these UFO experiences all your life too. And that's what I love about you, Bill, is that, you're, open-minded to what's going on around you and seeing it. And, your faith is still strong.
Right. How could I deny or say, oh no, either those things don't exist or they're all the devil or whatever? I can't. I've had all these experiences, and I know what is from God, and I also know what is from the devil. And I've had many divine experiences. Yes, I've had many evil satanic experiences, but I've also had many divine experiences. And in my life now, I have divine experiences, and I thank God and praise God for that.
But some of those divine experiences involved UFOs.
Yes, absolutely correct.
I want to get back to that when we get back from commercial break, because I think that's incredible, because, you hear ancient aliens talk about it. You hear, everybody talk about aliens and the Bible and all this stuff and the description of UFOs. A lot of descriptions in the Bible sound very UFO-ish, So, there's
70 scriptures. There's 70 scriptures in the Bible that talk about UFOs, and most people don't understand this. I've gone into some churches talking about it. I've been received, and then other churches, they'll call me an agent for the devil, and they won't receive it at all. So it's very sad and unfortunate, because for me, knowledge is power. So the more that we learn, the more we grow.
Awesome. All right, guys, we're going to go to a short commercial break. We come back with our guest, Bill Bean, author of Dark Forces Revisited, Stranger Than Fiction. We're so happy to have him back on the show for to talk, get more into these because it goes by so quick. But we will open up the phone lines after this commercial break. I will give you the phone lines out. You can call in, tell us about your experiences, or if you're seeking advice, you're having something dark like that we're talking about happen to you, this is the man to talk to. All right, guys, we'll be back with this short commercial break.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Knights of the Road, here's your stallion. The car for freedom. The car for hot excitement. The car for a man who is alone against the elements.
Batsu Thunder.
The pride is back. It's the power of a compact.
It looks small, but it's so big.
Fuel injected.
Inject me.
My Batsu Thunder. On the toll road of life, you have to pay to prove you can. Live the emotion of an individual. The awesome power of nature distilled into one vehicle. Because after you get struck by lightning, there's thunder.
The Maibatsu Thunder.
Tired of school?
Who was Joan of Arc?
Noah's wife? Like to travel?
Let's go back into history. Let's reach out and touch someone.
Want to meet people in the past?
Put them in the Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden? Excellent! Execute them, Otis.
Then hitch a ride with George Carlin, Keanu Reeves, and Alex Winter in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure from Orion Pictures.
Hi, Jill. What are you making?
I'm making average noodles for my kids.
What are they like?
They're distinctly average. This one is broccoli flavour.
That is very average. I could barely raise any extreme enthusiasm for those whatsoever.
You should try their other flavours like carrot, plain fish and potato.
Are they quick to prepare?
Compared to other noodles, you mean?
Yes.
They're pretty average, actually.
Well, I might just possibly go and maybe buy some sometime in a bit, perhaps.
Yes, I'm sure your whole family will be mildly interested in average noodles.
Average noodles, they're okay, just nothing special.
Hi, Jill! What are you making? I'm making super noodles. For your kids? Stuff that. For me. What flavour are they? They're magnificent mild curry. Oh, they are super! Wait till you try their other flavours, like sudden fried chicken, barbecue beef, and cheese and ham. Wow, Jill, this has changed my life! Now I really appreciate the meaning of the word super as an adjective. Mummy, can we have some? Yes! In fact, let's invite the whole street round for tea! Yeah!
Fabulous super noodles, not named super for nothing.
The first time was only a warning. Damien, Omen 2. Now showing at the Leicester Square Theatre. Certificate X. Available in paperback from Futura Books.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You could accept the fact that this city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion.
What do you mean, biblical?
What he means is Old Testament, Mr. Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is spiritual warrior Bill Bean. We're talking about all things demonic, and we're also talking about aliens and aliens that have a divine experience for Bill and other people. I've heard this. You look back into all the scriptures and stuff. How much do angels use UFOs? You wonder. Do they have ships of their own? The chariots in the sky. That's what we're going to get into tonight. And there's other stuff, current events that I know we're going to end up getting into. But we will open up the phone lines now. You can call in now. Only 2 lines are open, so pay attention. You can call in at 219-230-4444. That's 219-230-4444. You can call in at Skype ID OOJBland00. The other 2 lines are down tonight because we got our guest on that. So just call in on those lines. Wait till we call on you. You'll hear me call out your area code or name if you're on Skype, first names only, and ask your question of Bill or tell us about your experience. This is the man to talk to. If you're going through something dark in your home, I urge you to call in and talk to this man. There's nobody better I think you can get advice from and reach out to is Bill Bean. But let's go ahead and get back to the show. You still there with me, Bill?
I am still here, my brother.
So we were getting into, as we broke into the commercial break there, about your experiences and your mother, seeing the blue lights go down into the ravine, and experiences with seeing craft are incredible. The pictures you have in your Stranger in Fiction book of what you've seen are incredible. I mean, I highly urge people to check it out. Tell us a little bit of how that all started for you.
Well, the UFO experiences started in 1977. And the first UFO that I saw was with my family. Now, again, as I stated, my dad had left home in 1975, but he came back for a visit in 1977. And so I recall us being in the living room watching TV, I'd say somewhere between 8 and 9 p.m. And I believe it was July 1977, and all the power went out. So then my dad goes outside, they light the candles and all that stuff. He goes outside to investigate. He's thinking that, there's an accident. Somebody struck a utility pole or something. And he comes racing back in, and he's like collecting us saying, come see this. And we all go into the backyard, and there's this object. It was silently hovering probably 40 yards from our back door in the ravine, and it was very low, and it was over a utility pole and down in the ravine. So if you're looking at the ravine from our back door, to the right, so down in the ravine, slightly to the right, was the pole and also one of those little substation things, the power stations. Yeah. And so the UFO was hovering over that. And so again, it is silently hovering there. Then other families come out into their yards. Oh, wow. And we're all watching this. And the only thing that I really could see that was, couldn't hear anything, but every once in a while you'd see the object have a slight wobble. That's the only thing that I really noticed, about it, other than it being a brilliant white. And it was,
how far up do you think it was?
couldn't have been any more than, I would guesstimate, couldn't have been any more than 1,000 feet up. So that is low.
Yeah.
And so it looked like a mushroom. It was shaped, I guess, your typical saucer shape, but it had something underneath of it. So it kind of looked like a mushroom shape.
Well, you've seen the Pentagon's videos? One of them kind of looks just like what you're describing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and this thing was, a brilliant white, and it hovered there for almost an hour. And then it just slowly and gently started to rise up, gain in altitude. And then it headed off very slowly to the north. And when it did, all the power came back on in the homes.
It's like out of Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah. And an interesting thing, Jason, after that,
yeah,
I recall going out and, I was telling you that my dad had put that pool up in the backyard there, and he built a deck around that. And I recall many nights going out there and sitting on that deck, that was attached to the pool, and just looking up at the sky and wanting that thing to come back and take me, because I was suffering so much, from everything that was taking place in the house. So just amazing. Then there's a photograph. I should have sent this to you, and it is on BillJBean.com, BillBean.net, BillBeanMinistries.com too, I think. It's a photo that was taken of my mother in 1975. And I think this was before my dad left. And she's on the telephone, and she's behind the bar. My father had built a bar in the house. And so he took out this coat closet and made it into a bar. My mother's standing behind this bar on the phone. Well, beside her appears to be this little 3 feet tall, little gray alien looking thing. And you see the flash of the camera coming off of its head. And then there's a long rectangular mirror behind her. And then to the left of that is an oval shaped mirror. And there is this face, this alien looking face that is in the mirror. Yeah, it's unmistakable.
I think we showed it last time on the show. I think we did show that.
I think you did, yeah. And so, again, that further reinforces what I'm saying here with the UFO connection. And then there was another photograph taken in 1974. And this is probably maybe the only one or two that I could think of in the history of us living there that was a happy family photograph. And in the photo, my dad is on the end. And if you're looking at the photo, you see him, he's to the left, but to our right, if we're facing the photograph. And behind him at the back door is this very large face. It's right there in the back door, but yet there's
Bill got on your website, by the way. He does have the photo, one of the photos
great.
up. It looks like the happy photo you're talking about.
Yeah, and you see behind my dad there at the back door, there's this gigantic face right there in the back door. But if you look at the artwork, it's like a peacock or something that's on the wall to his left. If you take a good look at that, in the middle of that peacock, you see an alien face and head in that.
Sadly, I don't think you can get it to zoom in. It's just showing the picture.
Take a good look at it and you'll see it. I mean, I was astounded when I saw that. I thought, dear God, I can't believe it.
You had to wonder, like when you start getting into this and researching your family, you're going to find this kind of stuff in your old family photos,
Yeah, and I didn't know it, Jason. I didn't even know these photos existed until my wife and I went over to my sister's house. I believe that it was, Christmas 2005. And she asked me if I wanted some of my mother's photographs. Our mom, she had all of our mom's photographs. And I said, sure. And she gave me a bunch of them. And I started going through them and I started finding some of these things. I just couldn't believe it. I was beside myself. I could not believe that I saw, I actually was seeing some of these things in the photos.
I wish I didn't even think about it too, bringing the photos back up again, because you do have. So this is why I urge people to go get Stranger Than Fiction as well as another book, because you have some of the stuff in there. I remember some of the UFO pictures,
and I see why you can't see because the peacock is cut off, the wall is cut off there. So you see the face behind my dad in the back door, but for some reason it has cut it off on the website. So I'll have to send you the actual photograph to where you can see in further detail the picture of the peacock, and you see that alien face and head right there in it.
Yeah, that, and it makes the mind boggle. Like, what is the connection between the demonic forces your family experienced and the alien?
Well, here's what I think. I think that this goes all the way back to so when God, Yahweh is his name is listed 6,823 times in the Bible, replaced with the title of Lord. So wherever you see Lord in caps, that should say Yahweh. Jesus' Hebrew name is Yahshua, which means Yahweh saves. Yahweh saves through him. So anyway, when Yahweh decided that was enough for Hasatan, Satan, the devil, he cast him out and a third of the angels out of heaven. They came down here. The Benai Elohim, the sons of God, came down in flying craft. By the way, the devil gets this technology from God because for whatever reasons, Yahweh has his angels and heavenly hosts to traverse the skies in some of these flying crafts. So the devil was cast out with a third of the angels in these flying craft. They come down here, they take human women, they produce a hybrid offspring of giants called the Nephilim. The Nephilim, they become man-eaters. They're just wicked. They're terrible. And so they went into the forest and had unnatural sex acts with the beasts of the field, apes, bears, dogs, and other things. And that's why we have these Sasquatch Bigfoot creatures, because they are the offspring of the offspring. And so all this ties in together. So again, you have these. So now, these fallen ones have come down. They have taken these women, they've produced this offspring, and then the offspring produced an offspring. And so God decides he's going to cause this great flood to rid the earth of all of this. And I believe some of those beings escaped planet Earth in those flying craft, and they went to places like Mars. And that's why we have faces and statues and pyramids and all this kind of stuff on Mars, because they went there until everything calmed down. And then once the floodwaters receded and everything calmed down, they came back and continued the satanic seed line. Now, why didn't God wipe them out again? Well, that's a good question, but I have to believe that God uses the devil for a reason, and that reason is free will. So God created us with free will. We're free to make choices, but there has to be an adversary to mankind because of the consequence of the bad choice. He could have wiped the devil out a long time ago, but he chooses not to because the devil does serve a purpose. And so when you really think about all of this, it makes perfect sense. And all of these supernatural things, the UFO things, the Bigfoot things, all of this, the Mothman, all of this ties in together.
It's interdimensional. It's synaptics we're talking about here, really.
Absolutely. So you have some that are in the angelic realms that are of God, and they are his angels and his heavenly host and beings of the like and beings of the light. And they're all aligned and under and worship God. So they are there, they exist. What do you think was feeding the slaves that were released, that Moses led into the promised land? It was a UFO over them that was feeding them manna, bread.
Well, one of the pictures
by day and light by night.
One of the pictures that Rob just showed off your website I think is a really incredible one, because I've always been fascinated by the cigar-shaped UFOs.
Yeah,
the pillar in the sky.
I have tons of them, and I sent you a few on your Facebook Messenger thing too, recent ones that I've taken. And so again, we have these beings that are under God, yet there are these demonic beings that are part of the satanic kingdom, and there is a satanic kingdom, which includes these reptilian type of beings and these other things. All these things are part of Satan's unholy kingdom. And then we have the governments on the earth that have now come into knowledge through making deals with these satanic forces that are on the earth. And so they have literally sold the people out for this quote unquote quote power and technology that we have now. And then furthermore, I do believe that in the vastness of this universe, that Yahweh created life elsewhere. And so you have to factor that in as well. So I've often say that there are really at least 4 reasons, you know, for seeing these UFOs and having these experiences. But, you know, the most prevalent are certainly through Yahweh's heavenly powers and his heavenly kingdom, and the devil's darkness and that satanic, you know, underworld that that he is a part of, and that he tries to manifest on anybody and everybody that he possibly can.
Now, tell me about encounter with a UFO you felt was divine. Like what?
I've had many of those, and I've
yeah.
had a recent one. I had so oftentimes, Jason, I don't get to bed before 4, sometimes 5 a.m. in the morning. I answer people messages from people from all over the world every single day. I have to be at my best because I have to be somebody to and for somebody every day of my life. And so in that, I have to stay in what I call warrior mode, which is faith, strength, and courage. And by staying in that, you know, we have true faith, therefore we don't have any fear. So when we're in that type of warrior mode, you become very, very busy because you have to be somebody to somebody all the time. So again, on this night in particular, which was about a month ago, it is 5 a.m. And I know it was 5 a.m. because I looked to my left, there was a clock right there. So I said 5 a.m. So I'm looking, and I always have this habit of looking out the window before I go to bed. And so I looked out the window, and sure enough, at 5 a.m., this object appears. It's in the northwest part of the sky, and it's hovering over the trees. And now think about this. If we're seeing a plane, an airplane stays on a straight trajectory, right, and you see it for a couple of seconds, you know, maybe 3-4 seconds, if that, and it's gone. You hear it too. Well, this thing was hovering out over this cluster of trees, very low, and it was brilliant white. And so I'm watching it. And so it came into my mind to test the spirits. Okay. So in the Bible, we're told to test the spirits and to see if they are of God.
Okay.
So by testing the spirit, I'm standing there at the window, and I look out and I say, by the mighty power of Yahweh and his mighty and holy name, in Jesus' name, I bind and rebuke you and command you to depart. And I say this in a very authoritative voice. Now, if that was something evil, Jason, it would have to depart right away. It cannot withstand the power of God. It would have to depart. It did not depart. So then, you know, I stood there, and it continued to hover, and I started praising God. Thank you, Father. Praise you, Father. Glory to you, Father, in Jesus' name, forevermore. And I continued to do that. And as I was doing it, the object was responding to what I was saying. It was growing in size. Oh, wow. And the light got more brilliant and more intense. So the more I praised God in Jesus' name, the more this object responded. It was amazing. So then at, I think, 5:07 a.m., another object, which looked exactly like it, appeared. It appeared right behind the first object. So now it's like behind it and sort of to the, would be my left.
Yeah.
It to the object's right, my left. And so now I continue to praise God, and that object was responding in the same way with this. Every time I praise God, these things would just, it was like they were bursting with this light, and the size was increasing. So then the second object disappears, and the original object stayed there until 5:12 a.m. So this sighting lasted from 5 a.m. to 5:12 a.m. before this thing finally just blinked out and departed.
Do you think they came there purposely to show you and give you a message?
Yes, absolutely. And this has happened all throughout my life. I recall another day and there have been times where I felt like my life was in danger too when these things were around. So, you know, it's been both sides. There's been times where several objects appeared that I felt were protecting me and escorting me from harm. So I've experienced the full gamut of this, but another experience that comes to mind took place in 1999, I think it was. And at that point in time, from 1995 to 2008, I was seeing UFOs all the time, and they would appear wherever I was. I've had as many as 50 people in a group with me that have seen them. I have been featured on the 6 o'clock news, the 9 o'clock news, the 10 o'clock news, the 11 o'clock news. I had WBAL Channel 11 News in Baltimore come out. I started having these sky watches, and groups of people were coming out with me and seeing these objects that were appearing. And I actually had Channel 11 News in Baltimore come and do a live interview with me at one of these sky watches. And so just absolutely amazing. So back to this day in 1999, beautiful sunny day. And it had gotten to the point to where I could go out in my backyard. And back then you had the camcorder, you know, the big bulky camcorders.
Yeah.
And I would put that on tripod and just point it into the sky, and sure enough, these objects would appear.
You know,
and so.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was to say, last show we had was Open Lines, and I think my friend Tyler, I think it was Tyler. Yeah, Tyler called in and was bringing up. There was a guy who he passed away, but he summoned UFOs live on a news broadcast once.
Oh, that's that Prophet Yahweh guy.
Yeah, but his was reading from a Bible, right? His was kind of a religious undertones to what he was doing. And it makes you wonder everything in the past. You know, all the paintings where you see a UFO in the painting.
Yeah.
You know, if that's where because I mean, a lot of them were paintings of something else that happened further back in time, but they put these UFOs in there. Well, is that what they were experiencing at that time, that they realized this was something divine?
I certainly believe it. And, you know, back to that day, it's a beautiful sunny day. I just started the camera rolling. I'm standing behind it. So I'm not on camera. I'm standing behind it. But you can hear my voice say, praise God for such a beautiful day. Now, at that point in time, I did not see anything. And the camera was pointed to the northern part of the sky. I didn't see anything. Yet when I reviewed the videotape, I could not believe my eyes. So right after I say, praise God for such a beautiful day, this object, and now think about this, the Bible mentions this many times as these UFOs being a cloud or a pillar of a cloud. Okay, so on the video, this cloud-like object. Now, there's not a cloud in the sky, but yet this cloud-like object, which is moving into the frame, and it's moving on a straight trajectory like an airplane would, and it's banking. You can absolutely see this. It's a cloud.
Wow.
And it's banking, and it comes right in front of the camera, right in front of my face in the sky. I should have seen it. I didn't see it. And it hovered there for at least 5 seconds. And then all of a sudden, it starts moving away to the north, and it broke up into 5 white circular objects, and they just went away to the north. Now, I had that on camera, on video, and I never saw it, but when I reviewed the tape, there it was, and there was no mistaking it. And so I've had many experiences. And another time, it was in the morning, I was out feeding the birds, and the best way to describe it, it was like silver or chrome or something. It was highly polished. It came right down out of the sky, right down towards me where I was feeding these birds.
Yeah.
And it hovered probably 10 feet above the ground. And it was like a disc, and there was nothing in the middle. It was just like this round, highly polished disc thing that was open in the middle. And
like hovered, a hole, like a donut?
Yeah. And it came down over the ground for about 10 seconds.
Wow.
And then it just shot straight back up. And I mean, I absolutely believe that was divine. I mean, so I've had, you know, many of these types of divine experiences, and I praise God.
Wheel in the sky, you know, that's what I think of when you say that, you know, because they talk about wheels within wheels.
And I mean, it was unmistakable, Jason. I saw it, clear as day, just like I would be if you were standing there. I would see you, or how I was seeing the birds there.
Right.
It was unmistakable.
We do have some of the pictures up you sent me in Messenger too. I
Yeah.
got them to Rob to put up. Like there's the one where you're standing out in a green, nice, beautiful place, and you got like a UFO. It looks like up to the left.
That was in Mentone, Alabama, and that happened in 2008. And I was making an appearance there, and I had a good friend of mine named Bob who traveled with me everywhere, when I'm making these appearances. And so he traveled with me to Mentone. And I said to him, just out of the blue, I said, you see that area over there? And again, this was another day where it was a beautiful blue sky, beautiful day. He says, yeah. I said, I want you to take a picture right in that area. He says, why? I said, just trust me on this. There is an object there. He says, I don't see anything. There's nothing there. I said, trust me on this. Just please take the picture. He says, well, okay, why don't you go over there and stand where you think it is? And I'll take the picture. I said, okay. So I did. He took the picture, and you could clearly see some type of white object above me there in the sky, right where I told him that it was.
What's the other picture? Rob had it up just a little bit ago. I don't know if you can pull it back up, Rob, where he was zooming in on it, and the brightness of whatever this is, it looks like it might have been taken through a window. It's just a glowing, shining object in the night sky.
Absolutely. And this was taken from my office. I was, again, late at night in my office. I'm sitting in front of my computer, and I have like the desktop thing. So I've got like a 42-inch screen in front of me. And so to my right is the window, and I'm sitting here working. All of a sudden, Jason, this bright light shines in. Now, this had never happened before.
Right.
Hasn't happened since either. This bright white light shines in through the window. Now, this had to be very bright to get my attention in this way. And I mean, it shined right on me to where I had to turn my head. And I'm looking, I'm going, what in the world? So I stand up, and then I started taking pictures. And that is one of the photographs. And this thing was, very large object and a very bright object.
I want to show Rob, zoom in on that object like you did earlier when we were talking, because for people to see, if you zoom in, you can see this isn't a forgery of any kind. And look at the brightness of this. Look at the pure brightness of what you took a picture of. I mean, it's glowing.
Yeah, I know, again, look, I've had so many experiences in my life. I've never, ever falsified or forged anything. I don't have any reason to do that, nor would I ever. I'm a man of God. I wouldn't lie about anything. And so this, this actually happened the way that I say that it happened. And I wouldn't have known that it was there except for that light shining into my window to alert me. And I got up and took the picture. And yeah, that thing was very large and very bright.
So very large. So that's from a distance. You're seeing that. It's out there.
Not too far of a distance. It was, again, right over that same clump of trees that I took the other photographs and had the other sighting. So it's not too far. I'd say probably my best guesstimate, maybe 150 yards.
I still had it pretty big.
Yeah, from my window to where that clump of trees is. If that 150 yards.
There's the other picture we got up. I think you sent me too. It looks like, I don't know. It's like a bright white light, maybe through a window or something. I'm not sure.
Yes. And that again was another photograph that a recent one. So I sent you two recent ones. And then the one underneath of that was taken in 2017 of that yellow disc looking object.
Yeah.
And all of these were taken right around where I live at. And again, now when I see these things, I have no doubt that they are divine. I praise God for it. I take it as confirmation from God that he is with me and protecting me, and he does empower me as well. So I am nothing without him. I couldn't do the things that I do without the power of God working through me. I never claimed to be anyone or anything.
Well, it makes you think back, a lot of people know, now I totally had it in my brain and now I lost it. The, almost 100 years ago, more, the Fatima sightings.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't know how much what they describe sounds, you know, like a disc in the sky and UFO.
I totally agree.
You know,
I totally agree. But yet I think some people are really starting to wake up now and understand that there's a lot more to life than what we have been taught. And so I think some people are having an awakening, but others just remain. I think it's fear in a lot of cases. I think they're just afraid to open up to the facts that the story of life that we have been told is not entirely accurate, and there's a lot more to the story, and they're just really afraid to go there. And then there are some people that, unfortunately, Jason, and I hate to say it in this way because there's a lot of wonderful and good and decent Christian people out there, and there's a lot of wonderful and good and decent people in the world as a whole. But unfortunately, and whether it is Christianity or any other type of religion, if it becomes cult-like to where you have a leader that is saying you have to believe this way or you are damned to hell and you're no good and you're this and that, well, then the people are absolutely going with that narrative because they don't want to do anything to become hellbound. And so they simply will not step outside.
They're trapped by
what
fear.
They have been, of what they've been fed in order to seek the truth. They would just rather stay in that fear-based, trauma-based way of thinking and living. Therefore, they are giving all their control away to people. And again, I'm not criticizing the church. There are many wonderful churches, but there's also many corrupt churches out there.
I think that's been the blight of organized religion since the beginning of time. Is the fear of control, because that's man taking control of a narrative and a religion and an idea and using it to their own purposes.
Think about it. I mean, think about people like Jim Jones,
right?
David Koresh and Charles Manson. Think about how is it that one man can have this level of power over people to say, you must do this, you must do that, and then the people comply? I mean, Koresh and Jim Jones and Manson too, but there were other cult leaders like this. There was one guy who called himself the Prophet Yahweh, not the guy that was summoning UFOs, but this other guy. They were telling the husbands in their cult that, hey, you can no longer sleep with your wives. They can only sleep and have sex with me.
And so you wonder, like, how does somebody get to that point where it's like, hey, buddy, you're not sleeping with your wife anymore. I am. Okay.
And they comply with that?
Right.
I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unfathomable.
They find broken people. In my opinion, and then they break them down more.
Yeah. And then,
very similar to a demon.
You just took the words out of my mouth, because that's the devil's MO. That's his game plan. So he very much works through individuals like this to look for people like that in order to be able to implement this plan. And it is a plan of destruction. Every single time you see how it goes down into destruction.
Well, what about Revelations? I mean, do you believe, how deeply do you look at the prophecies of Revelations and, the end times and the Antichrist? Are we reaching that? Because things are crazy right now. We haven't even gotten into that yet.
I think we're here. Jason, but I'll say this. My view of life, and God has not told me this, so I could be wrong in what I'm about to say here, but this is my understanding of it. I think that life is like a gigantic wheel, okay? And it's a circle. And so it is infinite, and it continues so the wheel continues to circle around, and history does repeat itself.
Oh, yeah.
So I think we've had many instances throughout history to where we have come to these revelation end times. And I think that something momentous has happened many times. Yeah, and I think that we're here again.
Wow.
And so I really, truly believe that that a great and terrible day is coming. Do I wish it? No. I pray for peace. I pray for goodness in the world. I pray often that God would turn this world around and save it and restore it. However, God is not going to lift a finger for certain people who number one, don't want anything to do with him, and number two, are allowing the devil to work through them to create all of this chaos and disharmony in the world and all this evil garbage that's taking place. So if the people are not going to turn away from their wicked ways, well, there's going to be a consequence, and a great and terrible day is going to come. So we've seen this, and even through biblical history, you can read the books, and over and over and over, there is a theme that, Jonah and the whale. Jonah didn't want to go and warn those Ninevites that that the destruction was coming upon them, but that's one instance to where God really took away Jonah's free will and had him. And what was the whale? Was the whale a UFO that took him up and then deposited him on the beach? Yeah, and then put him on the beach to where he had to go and go to these Ninevites, in which he did. And the king actually accepted his words, and the Ninevites turned away from their wickedness, and God spared his wrath against them and actually blessed them. But then 100 years later, they went back to their wickedness, and God destroyed them. So this is what happens.
Well, yeah, we get set on a path, and then we kind of go back to the old routines.
Exactly right. And, look, it's a wonderful thing to have free will, and we praise God for our free will, but we also have to be mindful. I always think of it like this. Suppose you were the one that created the world. Jason created the world. And so
that's a horrible thought.
Jason created the world, shouldn't the people give you thanks for creating the world and really show love and appreciation to you for creating the world and for creating them? I would think so. Wouldn't it upset you and anger you if the people just turned away and said you either didn't exist or they're not going to follow you? They don't have to do any of that stuff. That's not their thing. Wouldn't you be upset by that?
I've thought about that question a lot all my life, Bill. Just because my interest in religion and spirituality, and the only thing I can think of on that is I imagine God having such a greater presence to understand everybody's situation a little bit. I don't know that's God's forgiveness.
He loves us, but he also shows wrath, and he does
Obviously,
get angry, and he is he's moved to anger, and the reason for this is rebellion. So rebellion, look, you don't have to go around hitting people over the head with the Bible and quoting scriptures on people. People that do that, they're hiding their own garbage in their life. But we have to be real. And so when you hear me say praise God, that's real. That's authentic. Right. I mean that. And I can never thank God and praise God enough. So I'll endlessly praise him. Is that something that you have to do or should do? That's between God and you. I can't tell you, Jason, you better do that or you're going to hell. But that's what I do.
But that's a great way of looking at it, Bill. And that's why I love you so much, because, people that praise their faith and everything, and then turn around and judge others. It's like, well, who are you to judge them? They have their experience with God. It's between them and God,
Yeah, I totally
They'll
agree.
Find out.
So this is where, so I pray every day in my life that God will work through me to be a blessing to somebody. Am I perfect? No, nor do I claim to be. But I try to do the best that I can do and be the best that I can be every day of my life. That's a guarantee.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Well, I had a question from the chat room bringing up these questions, and I wanted to get to one of them. I don't think it's one I've asked you. I don't think I have. Is from our from the YouTube chat. Federal Reserve is the name. Love the name there.
Okay.
He says he asked Bill if he believes in reincarnation.
I don't know. I don't know how that works. That's beyond me. So look, God knows everything. He's in charge of everything, and what he does is what he does. Psalm 145:3 says, "Great is the Lord, greatly to be praised. His greatness is unsearchable." So I don't understand how the world works. I don't understand. It's possible without really knowing the answer. It's possible, and I'll tell you why. Because sometimes there's people that you meet in your life that you feel that you've known them or something like that. It's just God brings people into our lives and makes this automatic connection. So is there something to that? It could be. I can't say that there's not. I just truly don't understand it. But I do know that there are certain people that you just suddenly meet and you go, wow, I know this person. Why? How?
Yeah, like you've known them all your life, even though you just met them. I know I've had that experience a number of times in my life, and I've had other experiences that make me believe very strongly in the possibility of reincarnation, personal experiences, and a couple of really intense dreams. But I'm like you. It's I really have a strong belief in it that it's possible. But do I know for sure? I don't.
Yeah, these are answers that are beyond us, Jason. And again, I just trust in God with everything. And also God is a revealer of things. So oftentimes when I'm troubled by something or I have a question, I'll take it to God and I'll ask him to reveal an answer. And many times what I'll do is I will close my eyes and I'll go over to my Bible, which is on my desk, one of them anyway. And I go over and I will close my eyes and just randomly flip it open. And more times than not, my answer is right there on one page or the other. When I've asked this question of God, I have an answer on one or the other pages there.
Wow. The other thing too, you talk about God will reveal things. For me, it feels, I've seen people mention this before, but all the events have been happening. And I'm not getting into politics or anything like that. Just the events in the world, events in this country, the way the dynamics have changed in society, but secrets that are being revealed. We talk about, Jeffrey Epstein. We got to get into that a little bit, I guess, here.
Yeah.
That's what's going on in the news. But it's like, all of us has been talking about this for the last 4, 5, 10 years, 20 years. It's, talking about these sex ring cults, and everybody's like, you're a conspiracy theorist. We're not looking like conspiracy theorists so much anymore. It's like this stuff that we've all been talking about. I mean, even the Pentagon with the UFO reveals, if that can be believed. It's like all this stuff we're talking about is starting to make it into the mainstream and start to get revealed.
Jason, I told people 20 plus years ago that these things were coming, that we had certain technology on the earth, and they didn't believe me. Even people in my own family, called me crazy and conspiracy nut and these things. And some of those very same people now have come back to me and said, you were right. All those things you said back then, it's all come true. Well, those are things that God revealed to me. And so when we have this relationship with God, and we have to do our part as well through study and holy discernment, God is a revealer of things, and he will reveal these things. And, this Epstein, I don't know if he was murdered. I have a strong feeling that he was.
Right.
And I said, once he was arrested, I said, this guy will never make it to trial.
I said the day before he died. The day before he died, I was like, not likely to make it to trial, or said if he makes it to trial.
Not going to happen, because that guy could have brought so many people down with him. And this is a global network. Now, let me say this. Have I been there? No. But again, I believe what I'm saying to be true, and I'm not going to name names. They know who they are, and more importantly, God knows who they are. But there is a cabal, there is a network, and whether you call them Illuminati or you call them the rulers of the earth, whatever it may be, they are part of this network. They do engage in these types of things because this is part of ritual magic. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So this goes back to Aleister Crowley, and before him, Madame Blavatsky, and on and on and on. This is part of ritual sex magic. And unfortunately, cannibalism is involved in this as well. And so go ahead.
Look at the Podesta emails that came out, and the spirit cooking, that stuff that came out.
Correct.
I mean, you're talking about somebody right close to the president going to these parties where they're like, having rituals of, fake eating people.
Well, that's for the cameras. Can you imagine what's going on behind the scenes? I mean, there are people. Now think about this. What is it? A couple thousand people a day go missing in America.
Yes.
Where's all these people going? Where are they going? And, they're going somewhere.
Well, think about the legal aliens that are coming across the border, and how many they talk about kids that go missing or die.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you've got to factor these things in. Where are these people going? And I hate to say this, and I pray that I'm wrong. I wish that I would be wrong on this. I don't want this to be true, believe me. But I absolutely believe some of these people are not only suffering just horrific sexual things, but then they are killed and eaten as well. And I hate to say it that way, but it's the truth. And this is taking place, and this is all part of a ritualistic thing that is done because these people that are doing this, they think that they're gaining in great power. They also think that it is going to make them ageless, that they are going to live forever. And that's what they hang on to. So they are very much buying the lie from the devil that if they do these things, they're going to become immortal. And so this is why they do what they do, and they will continue to do it. This is also why certain people, and again, they know who they are, and more importantly, God knows who they are, suffer some of these effects, like the Kuru virus from, eating human brain matter and drinking blood and things of that nature. And this is why they have these kind of fits and whatever you want to call them. But there's more than one out there that are being affected in this way.
Well, I think Hollywood has become the most prominent to see the effects of something along the satanic lines going on. You see it in the music videos, you see it in the movies, you see, this is coming from somebody who's not a Christian, but just a Gnostic, like I see it. I see the blatant, like just throw it out
and
there.
It is blatant, and this has been going on. I believe that this plan was put into place probably in the 20s. There's a movie from 1927 called Metropolis.
Right.
So from that, I think the blueprint was put into place, but the plan wasn't really hatched on the American people until the mid to late 50s. It's been often said that the 50s,
right,
certainly from the beginning of the 50s to the mid 50s, was the greatest time for the American family in America. And so we had an order to things. Dad went out and worked, and mom stayed home and took care of the house. Things were affordable. Kids listened to their parents. Dad was the disciplinarian. Mom also, went along with dad in giving the kids discipline and structure. And so you want to talk about a whole different world. It's like just a whole different universe there. But by the mid to late 50s, the plan was hatched, and that plan was to infiltrate America and the American family to destabilize the American family. So again, we see the devil's at work here through divide and conquer tactics. And so during this, and a great part of this destabilization process involved music. So you had, and people would say, "Oh, are you kidding me? What was wrong with Bill Haley in the comments and all that?" Well, they were the first. And then they brought along, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, and then Elvis came along. And so Bill Haley in the comments opened the door up for rebellion. And then by the time Jerry Lee Lewis, Little Richard, and then Elvis came along, boy, there was a sexual thing taking place then. And it was creating rebellion and sexual promiscuity in the youth. And then by the time the Beatles came along, oh, forget it. They were, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I can't prove it one way or the other, but I've done a lot of studies. I think they were created by the Tavistock Institute, which is like a CIA type of organization over there. And why do you think they called it the British invasion? Because it was an invasion. They came over here to invade America, to destabilize the American families, to create that level of rebellion and separation, divide and conquer tactics. And then they introduce drugs into the populace, and the young people start taking all the drugs. And we are where we are now as a society because those things those things that were implemented back then. This has been a slow downward spiral.
Well, you look at, you talk about Lister Crowley. Recently the house, they were trying to bring the house back, and how much of an impact he had on the locals there. They went and burnt it back down again. Again.
Praise God. Yeah,
right?
Kev Baker shared that with me, and I was overjoyed to hear it because, things like that.
They wanted to do rituals and stuff there again.
Yeah.
They wanted to do it, to bring it all back. Well,
think about this, Jason. Think about, and for anybody out there that's listening right now, and they say, "Oh, this Bill Bean, he's a crazy guy. There's nothing wrong with these musical groups. How dare you talk about the Beatles?"
I'm a big fan of the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and all that stuff.
Now, if I'm a crazy man, okay, now I want you to think about this, and for everybody out there that's listening, if I'm a crazy man, I want you to dig into this. Do not take my word for what I've just said. Dig into it. How come all of these groups, including the Beatles, Zeppelin, all of these, believe me, I'm a guitarist. I used to play all these songs. I can play them all. I don't play them anymore, but I can. How come they're all associated with Crowley in some way, shape, or form? How come they all give tribute to Crowley? How come?
I agree. I agree.
I
It's
mean,
there.
think about
Oh yeah, especially Led Zeppelin.
especially the Beatles.
Yeah.
It's 20 years ago today. Sgt. Pepper taught the band to play. There's a lot to that. Now, songs and words have two meanings. And one of the dual meanings in that was it was the anniversary of Crowley's death. He had died 20 years to the day when that song came out. He died in 1947. So when Sgt. Pepper was released in 67, Crowley had died 20 years to the day. It was 20 years ago today. Sgt. Pepper taught the band to play. So they're talking about Crowley right there, but there's a double meaning in it too. And that'd be for another show. But you know, and also on the 67 Sgt. Pepper album, you know, they show all these people on the cover, and guess who's on there? Aleister Crowley.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is where I was going to get to, is that, you know, Aleister Crowley, they used him during World War II to kind of talk to the occultists involved with the Nazis.
Oh yeah.
You know, and but that was the OSS. Then the CIA comes along later, and they get involved. They take, it's like they almost are like, we need a new Aleister Crowley, and I swear Anton LaVey is one of those.
Correct.
And
You're absolutely
you
correct.
get James
And then,
Mansfield and Sammy Davis Jr. and the Kennedys. You get these people that come to his parties, and that's where it started in Hollywood.
Pack.
Yeah,
the
Rat
Rat
Pack.
Pack, all these people, and so then it branches off to Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino, who started the Temple of Set, and then was involved in the military psyops. Okay, so you have a man that is an open Satanist that has this satanic organization called the Temple of Set, and he is a very high up guy in the military that is in charge of these clandestine black ops with these psyops. I mean, what is that saying? What are you saying there? I mean, you know, it's all right there in plain sight, and that's what they do. They do these things in plain sight, but it's unfortunate that most of the populace is so dumbed down from everything. They can't see it. It's right in front of their faces.
One of my favorite movies is, I don't know if you
I
recognize it.
have come here to chew bubblegum.
Yeah, they live.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Because, you know, that's how I feel. Like, we see these things, me and you, Bill, we see these signs, we see these things, but everybody else around us mostly is just completely numb to it. I mean, I was watching a Taylor Swift music video, and I was just like, what the heck happened to Taylor Swift? You know, because it's like, there's so much satanic imagery. I recognize all these things, these symbolisms that are in this. I mean, Beyonce, I mean, dear God, I mean, how more out there can you be about it? I mean, you can see it. It's in Hollywood. It's out there. It's like they're flaunting it right in our faces. You know, the Illuminati symbols, all this stuff they're doing. It's like they're like joking on the dumb people that don't realize.
Now, here's the sad part about this, and this all works together piece by piece. Very clever. It's very cleverly put together by the devil and his minions, and then the human minions that carry out these things. These people, in my opinion, they're slaves to their masters. So they sign up, and literally they're selling their souls. And so they have this promise of power and money and fame and immortality. So they're all in. And once they're all in, they can't get out. The only way they're getting out is over their dead body. And so then, you know, it's too late. They just become slaves to their masters, and they put out this garbage. This has been going on for a long time, but now it's more blatant than ever before. And now you got these I don't even know what to call them, this Billie Eilish or whatever, and then this one called Poppy, just absolutely in your face satanic. And how
the Billie Eilish was just the one that's like talking about a satanic sacrifice or something. I don't remember.
And talking about worshiping Lucifer, talking about urging the teens to commit suicide.
Yeah.
These are hellions. And look, I'm not out to bash anybody, but Jesus said you'll know them by their fruits. Just read their lyrics. That's all you have to do. Read their lyrics. They're telling you everything.
Oh, yeah.
And there are kids that are following along with these people. They're buying their CDs, and I blame the parents because the parents are allowing this to happen. Now, look, you can't watch your kid 24/7. However, you have to install and instill rules and guidelines and consequences for bad behavior. This doesn't happen anymore. And another clever thing that the devil has done is he's made it very difficult for parents to really discipline their children now because of CPS. I'll call CPS, I'll get CPS involved. So it becomes very difficult for the parent to be a disciplinarian in this. However, it's the only way that you're going to save your child from this fallen cesspool of a world, because these performers are put out there to capture the minds and then the souls of these young people.
Yeah, and my biggest proof to me is look at some of the performers. Like, oh God, I mean, look at some of these performers. They had to have sold their soul to the devil. Really had to sell their soul to the devil, because I don't hear what people are hearing. I don't hear why people like them. The music sounds awful to me. Maybe it's
awful. It's terrible. I mean, I couldn't watch any more than like 30 seconds or so that Poppy video. I mean, it was so vile and disgusting. And if you haven't seen it, Jason, I recommend that you do, and certainly not in a good way, but just for information's sake, to look at that and say, what am I looking at right here? It starts out, it looks like an S&M type of thing. It starts right out like that. And then complete with her being covered in blood. This kid looks like she's a combination of Ivanka Trump. And remember that movie, The Bad Seed, that came out in the either late 50s or early 60s? Patty McCormick.
I don't think I've ever seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, this kid looks like a combination of Patty McCormick, the kid that starred in The Bad Seed, and Ivanka Trump. That's what she looks like. And they portray her as this ghoul that, singing all these satanic songs. They cover her in blood. And this Billie Eilish character, same thing. They portray her as being possessed, black goo coming out of her eyes, and they're both singing about Satanism, death, suicide, all these types of things, and yet they have this mass following. It is just unfathomable to think that we have sunk so low in society to where we have our children that are just spellbound by these little hellions.
Oh, and really bad music. As a musician, I can't stand it. But we got to go to our last commercial break. Do you want to stick around? We are going to see if we can get some phone calls in here the last half hour.
Yeah, I'll stick around with you about 15 more minutes, maybe 12. We'll take a few phone calls and then I'll leave you.
Okay, all right. We're going to go to the last commercial break, guys. When we be back, phone lines are open, 219-230-4444, Skype ID JBland00. Call in. Tell us about your experiences. Ask us a question or join in on the conversation. What do you think about Jeffrey Epstein? Was he murdered, or was it just a suicide? What's going on? Is he even dead? That's a lot of the conspiracies going around right now. All right, guys, we'll be back after the short commercial break.
Intercepted transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're going to go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college. I've got a family to support and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It's called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Certificate A, now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Phantasm, the film that puts the fun in funeral. And as for a fiendish story, it does have a burial plot. Come prepared to scream, because if this one doesn't scare you, you're already dead. Phantasm from Avco Embassy Pictures. Rated R under 17, not admitted without parent or guardian.
Oh, midnight preview tonight, UA Westwood Theater.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDiff.net.
Heat 'em up. Do, re, be gone.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest has been Bill Bean, the spiritual warrior. We've been talking about the demonic. We're talking about aliens. We're talking about Bigfoots. We're talking about the Jeffrey Epstein case. A lot of things we're talking about tonight. You can join in any of those conversations. Anything you want to talk about with Bill here, ask him a question. Tell us about your experience. What do you think? Is Jeffrey Epstein still alive? That's what I've been seeing now circulating, and it's all fake. There's something to what's going on in this world. And I was one of those people when I saw that he died. Part of me wants to say, yeah, he got what he deserved. But the other part of me is, people didn't get justice. This guy died. Either he killed himself or somebody murdered him. But there's so many more things that need to be exposed that we need to know. And now is it going to get pushed under the rug because he's gone? I hope not. But you can call in tonight at 219-230-4444 or at Skype ID OOJBland00. Call in, join the conversation, ask Bill a question. This is the last half hour of the show. Phone lines are open, but let's go ahead and get right back into it. Thank you for staying with me, Bill.
Sure, absolutely. As always, I enjoy being on with you, and it's been a great show, and it always goes very quickly.
It does. It does go by so fast. We do have somebody on the phone here. We have Spooky on. How you doing tonight, Spooky?
I'm doing good, Jason. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for calling in.
My question is, I was wondering what he thought of like psychics and mediums.
Good question.
It is a good question. And hi, Spooky. Thank you for calling. Now, here's the way I look at this. God gives us all gifts. And these are gifts of discernment. And these are prophetic gifts as well. So do people have these gifts? Yes, because God blesses us with them. However, in my opinion, if a person who has the switch turned on, per se, to these gifts, if they are not giving praise and thanks and glory to God for the gifts, then they're in trouble. They're in big spiritual trouble. So you would never, ever hear me say that I have these powerful gifts and God has blessed me with many gifts, but it's his power that works through me to be able to do what I do. So I would never claim credit and glory for myself. And so those that are out there with those gifts, and if they're claiming credit and glory for themselves, that they're so great and powerful and this and that, they're in big trouble with God. But I do believe that people have these gifts because God has blessed us with them.
Well, like with mediums in the Bible, it tells you not to talk to the dead.
Correct. And I never have.
So doesn't that, well, I don't go looking for them, calling them, but don't they put themselves in trouble with God when they do this?
In my opinion, yes. It's a very, I would never do it. There's no way that I would ever do it. I follow God only. I worship and praise him only. I follow what Jesus said. Jesus said, this is how you should pray. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I follow along with that. So I don't engage in practices like that. The only thing that I engage in by the power of God is binding and rebuking and casting out demons off of people, places, and things.
Well, I know there's like seven gifts of the Holy Ghost, and like my mother is a Pentecostal evangelist, and she can see demons and cast them away. She's always been able to do that. But things like that, like I said, going back to psychics and mediums, like a psychic is they don't really talk to the dead. They
see the future.
They're like fortune tellers, and it says some, and one of the gifts is the gift of prophecy.
Correct. So again, if you really step back and take a look at this for what it is, and I'm not condemning anybody, I'm just speaking the truth, that God has an order to all things, and the devil mocks and mimics that. So if there are people out there who, and they know who they are, just like I keep saying, and more importantly, God knows who they are. If they claim to have these gifts and do this and do that, in some instances, and I just had a client yesterday that spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on a quote unquote psychic that took her for the ultimate ride. And she, over a 9-year period, had given this individual hundreds of thousands of dollars for nothing but destruction. That person did nothing for her but cause destruction in her life. So this is why I say, Spooky, it's very important for each and every individual to have their own personal relationship and connection with God, because if we do, then he will give us spiritual discernment to know who is truthful, who is not, who is good, who is not. And if our light, which God has put inside of us, and his power cannot be a blessing to somebody, well, then we cannot and must not absorb their darkness.
Oh, yeah. I was mainly, speaking about the ones that truly have the gift. I know there are a lot of fakes out there. It's like, this one famous psychic, Sylvia Brown, she would give someone a reading, And if the person kind of disagreed with her, she would more or less tell them, hey, I'm the psychic. I know what I'm saying. Anyone that claims to be 100% to me is not real.
Well,
But,
I mean, that's the same person right there that you mentioned that, if I recall, many, many years ago, she was on one of those shows, Oprah or something, saying that about the coal miners, they're all dead and forget it. And they were found alive, So, I mean, right there is destruction, because what she did was sowed the seeds of destruction and then put the families of those coal miners into absolute chaos and despair. And it wasn't true. And so this is why I say that it's very important for a person that has these gifts to be connected with God and allow God to work through them to help people, which will come under prophetic gifts. But if there are people out there, and again, they know who they are, if they're out there doing this garbage in their own name and they think they're so all great and powerful, they're doing nothing but the devil's work in sowing seeds of destruction.
Oh, well, exactly. They're doing nothing but filling their own pockets. I did, for the record, I believe in God. I was raised in the church. I believe in God. And I think that everybody's relationship with God is personal between them and God, and each one is different. But I'm kind of on the line about organized religion. I don't know if I really believe in that too much, although I do believe in God. And thank you for talking to me and answering my question. I really appreciate it, and I hope y'all have a good night.
You too. Great call.
It's my pleasure, and God bless you, Spooky. Thank you for calling in.
You're very welcome.
The two mediums that I know I'm close to, Rick Bunch and Katrina Cooper, both of them, what I love about them is that they don't feel it's about them. That it is about their connection to God.
And that's great, Jason. And that keeps in good standing with God, because I'm telling you, and I've seen this many, many times before, those who go out there in their own name thinking that they're almighty and all powerful and they can do this and do that, they end up in a pit. And before they end up in the pit, they've caused a variety of damage and destruction to many.
Yeah, I mean, it for the people that fake it, I really hate, because you're preying on people, and people have lost somebody, and you're faking it. Oh, hold on, I got to take a call. Almost forgot. Got somebody else on the line here. We got Zach. I want to make sure we get him in here. He's just popping in. Hold on. Phone lines sometimes are slow. Are you there with us, Zach? Oh no, we lost him. Hold on. We'll see if we can get Zach back, because I know he wanted to call in tonight. I know he's got something good. We'll see if we can get Zach back. But yeah, I've met some mediums that rubbed me wrong the minute I met them, and it's probably about how they went about the way they were. It's all about them.
And I'll tell you, Jason, once someone like that gets control over a person, and I've had many cases, many clients have come to me for help that were under such things. I think of another man, he's a good friend of mine now, but he was going to commit suicide, and he happened to see me on one of the A Haunting episodes. I'm the only man in the history of that series to have a reoccurring role in that series, and it's because of my case files. And he happened to be flipping the channels and saw me and contacted me, but he was ready to commit suicide because he had given like $40,000 to psychics, and then they took him to this witch doctor and had him slicing throats of chickens and goats and bathing in blood and all this kind of stuff. So he was on the fast track to destruction. And so we see clearly how the devil can work through people like this. They weren't robbing him of money.
They were trying to take him down completely.
Yes.
All right, we got Zach on the line here. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good, my man. How you doing?
Doing good. I was looking forward to your call, and you had a call in tonight, after the Jeffrey Epstein murder, suicide, whatever it was.
Oh yeah, no, dude, I definitely had to call in.
So what do you got tonight?
Just have one question for Bill. Well, to summarize it off, yeah, I do believe Jeffrey Epstein was murdered on that, and it definitely links back over to the Clintons, at least in my opinion. Just another number on the Clinton body count. But really, Bill, really, I mean, it's like today. I mean, you take a look right now. The Clintons, though, they're like political lepers. Nobody really wants to touch him at all. In fact, even in the midterm election, there were no Democratic candidates that I know of that either sought or wanted to receive their endorsement because of that. And I mean, you even see like speaking engagements, but a lot of them have had to cancel really because the ticket sales are so low. Nobody really wants to deal with them in regards to this Clinton body count, plus Bill's recent sexual assault allegations. I mean, the list just goes on and on.
It's endless. It's endless.
Bill, my question to you is, do you really think that there's some kind of divine intervention really that has really exposed the Clintons for really just the monsters that they are, and really just do you really think that just like people I mean, you see it today in a lot of like memes and posts on the internet now that a lot of people really are not buying this whole Jeffrey Epstein,
right? Even some people that aren't conspiracy theorists are already saying that something's up.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a story before we came on air here that they said he died of cardiac arrest. Okay, he died of cardiac arrest, and so now they're going to try and shift this away from being a suicide to, you know, he died of cardiac arrest. So there, it stinks to high heaven. And I could, you know, all I could say, Zach, again, is what I keep saying. These people know who they are. We know who some of them are. And more importantly, God knows who they are. So there is a day of reckoning. There is a day of consequence. And I pray that it has already started. And I was hoping, when I knew that Epstein, he would never make it to court. I knew that because he could have brought them all down. And, you know, the whole gang, this is a worldwide thing. And I do believe 100% that when God's ready, he's going to bring every one of them down.
Let's hope. Let's hope.
I believe it.
And it, you know, with the Clintons, I mean, to me, it boggles my mind they've gotten away with so much so far. You know,
right in plain sight,
right in plain sight, and that's why you like it. You know, but the thing when it comes to Epstein, you know, everyone wants to say that's the Clinton body count, but I mean, you got to think about there's a lot of powerful people that Clintons could have nothing to do with this. You got Prince Andrew involved. I mean, the royal family. I mean, so this guy had plenty of people that wanted probably him to not go to trial.
And again, I look at this as
this guy
picture a big round table. Just picture all these people sitting around a big round table, and so this is the cabal. You know, these this room full of people that are controllers on the earth, and they truly believe that it's all theirs and that the people are slaves to them, and then they could just do whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, because they don't have to follow the rules. They make the rules. So these are truly people that feel that they're above the law. And really, in many ways, they truly are, because nobody's, you know, it cracks me up. There's promises of, put her in jail, lock her up, and all. Right. She's never going to see a day in jail. Exactly. None of them are ever going to go to jail, because if one goes, they're going to pull the whole gang of them down. So it's not going to happen.
That's why
nobody's going to jail.
That's why I say, you know, I can't stand both sides in the politics, because I think they're all corrupt. I think they're all crooked, and that's why none of these people go down, because they will take all of them with them.
That's exactly right. So again, we go back to my theory about life being like a wheel, and the world is round. And so if that's the case, if that's true, so then we have these types of this cabal here. You know, again, it is a big circle of these people, and they just think that they are they're certainly the chosen ones of the devil, that's for sure. And they are carrying out, you know, all of his wishes, and they've been doing a good job of it for quite a long while. But I got news for them. By the power of God, a great and terrible day is coming, and I believe that it's coming sooner than later, and woe to them. And again, as I stated earlier in the interview, am I perfect? No. I'll stand for the things that I've done in life, and I'm sorry for any bad thing that I've done. I've certainly been on my knees asking God to forgive me for any bad thing that I've done in life. But those types, boy, oh boy,
there's no
I
forgiveness.
wouldn't want to be them. Right. I wouldn't want to be them.
Not when you're abusing children. There's no forgiveness in my, you know, there better not be. That's why I say thank you, Zach, for your call.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. I appreciate that. God bless you.
Hey, no problem, man.
But this is the thing. The cabal. You talk about cabal of people. Do you think it's that organized?
I do. Yes, I do. I really do. I think that and some of these people that are at the top of this circle or pyramid, whatever you want to call it, they are in direct communication with the devil's demons, and they are taking instruction, and then they carry that down to the underlings, and that's how it gets implemented.
Well, you wonder how much the people involved. And I'm sorry, Zach, if I cut you off. Did you have something else you wanted to say? I'm sorry, bud.
Oh, no.
Oh.
No, I just thank you, Bill, for answering my question as well. So I'll let you guys go for right now, and have a good night. All right.
You too, bud.
God bless you, Zach. Thank you.
Sorry, I cut him off. That was felt bad there. But you have to wonder if there's infighting between them. I mean,
oh, I wouldn't doubt that.
You're talking about people with egos and evil. Evil never gets along. That's its downfall.
You're not going to have a smooth machine there as far as when the human ego gets involved. So there's going to be some things that go back and forth, but it would be, think of it like a mafia type of thing, to where there's going to be a sit down. There's going to be somebody that's going to mediate that and say, look, we're getting back on the same page here. And so I do very much believe that it works in that way.
Well, you wonder if they the whole Me Too movement, like they were throwing people under the bus, like Kevin Spacey and Harvey Weinstein. These people that Kevin Spacey was on Lolita Express with Bill Clinton. He flew to that island.
Yeah, but these are all sacrificial lambs,
right?
So they get thrown under the bus because they're really, at the end of the day, they're nothing more than slaves. They're slaves to these masters, and so these people see themselves as real masters, that they are elite masters, and they're above everybody, including those types that serve. They serve them, but they are expendable because in their minds, everybody is disposable.
Well, I always wonder if they threw Kevin Spacey under the bus, because I watch things to see, like, I know this is propaganda and this is stuff that they're trying to control our minds, but I'll watch it because I'm interested. I'm a film TV buff. I went to school for it. I watched House of Cards, and I swear to God, Bill, Kevin Spacey in that show is trying to show us just a little bit of a glimpse of what that world's like. They even have, Bohemian Grove. They even have their own Bohemian Grove in that show at one point. Like he had. Yeah,
so it's in plain sight. It's all in plain sight.
Like the opening of the show is him and his wife. They're politicians, and he's about ready to be. He thinks he's going to become Secretary of State, and they're getting donors for their charitable organization on the fact that they know he's going to become Secretary of State, or think he will. So they're giving him donations. It was like totally the Clinton pay-to-play scheme. And you wonder if they threw him under the bus because he put too much of that out there.
It's just people also, like him, and then that Anthony Bourdain.
True. Oh, yeah.
And that guy, I have no doubt. Now, look, he's dead and gone. Did I know him? No, but I've read a lot of things that some I believe is true, that he very well may have been involved in that cabal. And then
wasn't it 2 weeks before he died, he was text or posting stuff about the Clintons.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden he's no longer with us. So we see this happening more and more. And furthermore, this is something else that I say to people: if everything that I've said here, if you're listening and you go, "This guy's insane, I don't believe any of this," that's fine. That's your right and your opinion, and that's fine. But I would urge you to do some digging and do some research, because all of these so-called stars, and now even athletes as well, I think that this goes across the board. They're all sold out. You can't be in the high places without selling out.
Let's just say, if you any of the stars, the big names, you think to get there, you have to sell your soul.
Yeah, and so if you start to dig into these people and dig into their backgrounds, you'll see death all around them. Every one of them.
Yeah, a lot of tragedy if you think about it. I mean, I look at Jim Carrey, and you look around some of these people that are kind of wacky too, and the things, the tragedies around their lives, and that is that the price. Like, you're going to get all the stuff you want, but there's going to be trauma and death around you.
And they cause the trauma because, I have studied some things again, which I very much believe is true, that some of these people, if not all or most, have to go through these shaming rituals.
Oh yeah.
They have to stand before in a large room full of people, and then these controllers that sit behind a table. And I have reason to believe through a lot of studies that they're subjected to things like eating feces and having sex with animals and things of that nature. And this is all part of shaming rituals in order for them to get their
Don't we
spot.
not do that in our fraternities? Didn't all these, collegiate places have these fraternities where they do the same exact thing? And I mean, Skull and Bones, you hear about some of the rituals there, but it's like the fraternities that everybody sees in the movies and have experienced in real life are like the subtle idea of what they do in a more intense way in these secret societies.
And then what happens is when these people engage in this high wickedness, well, it's documented. So if a person decides that they want to turn on the cabal, well, then you have a Kevin Spacey situation where all of a sudden these pictures pop out and all this information comes out about this guy being a pedophile and all this kind of stuff. And so that's how it works. So you either go along and you're in 100%, or you are going to have a really bad ending in one way or another.
Well, you wonder about some of the mysterious deaths of some of these stars. We didn't even get into the one thing that I'm fascinated by is the adrenochrome going through Hollywood. Yeah. I mean, look at the stars that look like zombie skeletons. And I mean, Lindsay Lohan. They're drugs, of course, drugs. We can. Drugs are bad. Okay. Drugs are bad. That has a lot to do with it. But look how quickly, like Johnny Depp, Lindsay Lohan was trying to take some Iranian boy immigrant back to her hotel room. Okay. It was a really weird scene. She had a video. She posted it herself. She gets punched by the mother. You wonder, what are they trying to do to take a little child back to their room? You hear about this in adrenochrome. Go look it up. People don't have enough time to get all into that. But,
next time I come on, we'll dig into that. And, again, this is all part of cannibalism because that is
the worst kind
from the adrenal glands and the pineal gland. And that is caused by, in most cases, a horrible death that created such a high level of trauma to where these secretions came out.
Right.
And that is the most powerful drug on planet Earth, and it is the most expensive.
I mean, I have people come on, let's talk about, there's the Frizzle Drip video of Clinton and Huma Dean. I don't know. To show me the video proof. You wonder why these people would videotape themselves, but you bring up a point. They are forcibly videotaped. If they want to partake, they have to have some evidence against them. But I think by now Hillary has enough dirt on him. They don't need to collect dirt on her. She doesn't need to be videoed. She should have enough skeletons in closets. They could reveal anything. So much out of it out in the open. Look at all the way back to Mena, Arkansas, and the drug trafficking. I mean, it goes back to the Clintons. I mean, there's so much. It's just a mountain of stuff. I mean, my father, who's a Democrat, and he hates Trump, and I get it. I totally understand his feelings. But he even said to me during 2016, he's like, he didn't like Clinton, and he's all the stuff I used to tell him. He'd shake his head at me. He's like, I can see there's some issues. I can see that something's not right with the Clintons. Even to the most loyal Democrats could see, that something is up with them.
And again, all you have to do is connect the dots to them and the people around them. And you'll have quite a story. The more you connect the dots, the more you see a pattern. The more you see a pattern, you'll see that these people are not good, and they are.
And just to prove my point about I hate both parties, look at the connections between George Bush and the Clintons and Mena, Arkansas, and the drug trafficking.
Well, I mean, look, I've said for years that there was no such thing as a Republican and a Democrat because they all work together behind the scenes.
Exactly.
And, it's theater. And I have to tell you that, I really was praying that President Trump would make a big difference here. I was praying that, perhaps God had really had Trump to be in there because maybe this was part of trying to clean the world up and things of that nature. But I was hopelessly optimistic, but when you look at things, you look at the bigger picture. I don't see any real change at all And as a matter
country
of
going
fact,
bankrupt. That's what I see.
And I see, it's just decaying more and more on a daily basis. And this is, if someone were really sincere about trying to come in, it wouldn't be through that system. I'll say that. There's no way that you could come into that arena the way that is set up and designed to come in and you're suddenly going to be one man taking on all of this garbage. Is just not going to happen that way. So what would have to happen, and this would probably have to come from God, is that an event would take place that would dislodge and destabilize that whole system. Yeah, and then they would crumble down. And then a new system could be built if the people were really good and decent and honest, and they really wanted the betterment of Americans and mankind. Then perhaps you would have a chance, if it was God's will, to change the world and turn things around for the better. Otherwise, all the world's a stage, and there are many players, actors, and portrayers, and that's unfortunately what's taking place now.
We just need those glasses from They Live to see.
Yeah,
that's what we need. Well, thank you so much, Bill. Time flies so fast. We are at the end of the show, and we got to get you on again to talk about more of this. And
absolutely, there's plenty more to talk about. And thank you, Jason. Right. I really have appreciated being on with you, and God bless you, brother.
Get one more time. What is the website?
And I want to thank everybody out there for listening in, and for anybody who's in need of spiritual help, don't hesitate to contact me. You can visit me at billbean.net, billjbean.com, billbeanministries.com. Thank you, brother. God bless you.
God bless you too,
everybody out there.
All right, guys, that's it. We'll be back next Sunday with Anwin Avalon. Water Magic is her book, and I cannot wait to have her on. We had to reschedule her twice, so everything's going to go right. We're going to have her on because I've been fighting to get her on, and I've been reading her book. Really interesting. So, all right, next Sunday, same bad time, same bad channel, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific time. Check it out. Check us out on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Facebook, Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. Make sure you follow, and check us out on Patreon if you want to help out the show. $2 a month, get you exclusive access. Got my EVP episode I'm going to put up there. So I didn't get to do that on Heather's show. We never got to do EVPs on there, and I have a lot, so I want to do one for my Patreons. That'll be on there. Help support the show, guys. All right, guys, see you next week. Have a great night.
Thank you.